Naruto. I am invincible after simplifying the basic training. Chapter 1. Ninja School. The bell for class has rung. But the graduating class is still a little noisy. Bang. The podium was knocked hard. The classroom was instantly silent. Classmates, you will have your final exams in a few days. I know you are very excited and nervous, but this is not an excuse for you not to listen carefully. Now the fire and wind countries are at war, and your parents, friends, and seniors are still fighting on the front line. You are weak and can't help them. As a member of Konoha, as a member of the fire country, are you willing? Yamashiro Shigeiki stood on the podium, looking solemnly at the young leaks below. Not willing. In the immature shout, there was a kind of determination. Then you should listen carefully. Tactical courses are very important to you. The leaks glowed with greater spirit. Yamashiro Shigeiki breathed a sigh of relief, and the gaze outside the back door of the classroom made him a little nervous. Before the class starts, I want to ask you a question. We have said before that when a team enters an enemy-occupied area or a melee area, the first thing to do is to find cover. But if after you find cover, an enemy throws a kunai or ninjutsu at your position, what will you do? Fight back. Use more powerful ninjutsu to blast back. Some nameless cannon fodder blurted out, and then remembered the rules of Yamashiro, and honestly raised their hands, waiting for the old farmer's favor. Yamashiro Shigeiki glanced around, and finally looked at the little boy with yellow hair. Minato, you tell me. Judging the direction of the enemy according to the trajectory of the projectile, and then notifying the rest of the team, try to detour and kill the enemy while hiding your whereabouts. Well, does anyone have a different plan? Hualala, at least half of the hands in the class were put down. Yamashiro Shigeiki glanced around again, and finally stopped at a steady student in the corner of the classroom. The child sat upright, with bright eyes and eyes that did not look sideways. A simple flat head, coupled with the immature facial features and the black clothes around him, revealed a sense of determination. The two looked at each other, but the other's eyes did not evade at all, but he did not raise his hand, which meant that he had no intention of answering the question. Oh, Shancheng Shigeiki sighed, was it because of the incident a few years ago? Just now when he was encouraging this group of students, with his observation ability, he naturally found that among all the students, only the other party and a red-haired girl did not speak. As a civilian student, I will help you too. Qian Yi, if it were you, what would you do? The boy's black pupils flashed, and then he said without hesitation. Turn around and leave. Retreat the same way. As soon as these words came out, Shancheng Shigeiki frowned, unconsciously looked at the back door of the classroom. Fortunately, there was no one there. Chenny, you are a coward. That's right, you are running away before you even meet the enemy. How can you complete the mission given by the village? Back then, Tsunade and the other three adults led the Konoha martyrs to attack the rain villages, Demigod, Salamander Hanzo. It was because of their spirit of never giving up that they were given the title of Three Ninjas, and the martyrs who sacrificed were worshipped as combat heroes by the village. It was also because of their performance. We can end the battle with the rain country. Chenny, your parents are among them. And you, as their child, aren't you ashamed of your current remarks? Akazuka, a child who also lost his parents in that war, screamed at Chenny with red eyes. On the other hand, Chenny remained unmoved, and his upright body remained upright. But it was this attitude. It instantly angered everyone. At this moment, the main door of the classroom was gently pushed open, and a middle-aged man wearing a bamboo hat walked in. Children, don't get excited. Everyone has their own ideas. This is your power. Fighting is not as simple as talking about it. You need to learn and practice it little by little. Hokage. The students were instantly excited when they saw the person coming. And Yamashiro Shigeiki's heart sank. He had discovered that the Hokage was watching them at the back door before. And this group of students is about to graduate, and the guiding ninjas they belong to must be arranged by the Hokage and other high-level people. As a civilian ninja, he understands the importance of a team leader too well. That's why he asked Chenny to answer questions and try to leave a good impression on the Hokage. But he didn't expect. Hokage, Chenny. Yamashiro Shigeiki wanted to explain a few words, but was interrupted by the third generation with a wave of his hand. You are all the future of Konoha. As a senior today, I ask you a question. If you, as a leader, you are leading thousands of comrades to attack the enemy-occupied strongholds. The mission is to capture the area. But if you fail to capture it after several consecutive charges, what will you do? For a moment, the children in the classroom were silent, looking at each other. Obviously, for a group of children around 10 years old, the questions raised by the third generation are a bit beyond the scope. Frontline combat is a competition between regular military forces between countries, while ninja combat relies on elite special operations. After a long while, several students raised their hands. Akamichi Dodo, you tell me. The third generation pointed to a little fat man. Hokage-sama, I will tell them about the will of fire. Then deploy the wounded and let the warriors who still have combat effectiveness charge again with me. Your fearless spirit is worthy of praise. Anything else? Nara Shikaku, you tell me. I will slow down the rhythm and save some of the elite, but at the same time let the rest of the warriors keep feinting and harassing, and launch a surprise attack at night or when the enemy is tired. Strive to kill them with one blow. Quote. Well, your father will be proud of you. Anything else? Your name is Minato Namikaze, right? You can tell me about it too. The little boy with yellow hair suddenly became shy, but still said seriously. The specific situation must be determined according to the actual situation. The fighting conditions mentioned by Lord Hokage are too few to support the analysis, but judging from the fruitless charges, it is obviously impossible to obtain results from ground manpower attacks in a short period of time. Then we can try from other aspects, such as airstrikes, such as cutting off supply lines, such as... I can't think of it. Ha ha ha, it's okay, you are already very good. You will definitely be a good commander in the future. The third generation takes care of the emotions and self-esteem of every child, and finally suddenly focuses his eyes on Chenny. The originally kind expression instantly became domineering. That is the domineering from the ninja hero. You can tell me too. Quote, no name or surname was mentioned, but Shigeaki Yamashiro and every child knew who the Hokage was talking about. They swallowed their saliva involuntarily and began to worry about Chenny. Although they were angry before, as partners and teachers, how could they not know the situation at Chenny's home? They were angry, but they were also really worried. Chenny felt as if he was frozen in an instant. But his strong mental strength allowed him to withstand the pressure. I will change the direction of attack. 1 second, 2 seconds. Hee, then what? The third generation suddenly smiled, and the breathtaking momentum disappeared instantly. Then do what the classmates said. Their opinions are all good. There was silence again. Everyone, continue with the class. You need to slowly digest what you said today. Konoha also needs you. After the third generation finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the classroom. You study on your own first. Quote, after saying this, Shigeaki Yamashiro followed the Sandai, and the other party did not refuse. After leaving the classroom door for a certain distance, Shigeaki Yamashiro spoke first. Hokage-sama, don't blame Chenny. His parents were martyrs who participated in the battle of the three ninjas. After hearing the news, Chenny was hit hard and was in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. Since then, the child's temperament has changed drastically. Although he has become more stable, he always says some inappropriate things. Hearing this, the Sandai stopped and turned back to ask softly. Shigeaki, you have been a chunin for 5 years, and you have experienced large and small missions before, but you should not have participated in group operations or decisive battles with thousands of people, right? Hiruzen's eyes were a little deep and a little blurred. No, the most I participated in was a raid with 200 people. Shigeaki Yamashiro was a little confused. That's right, you won't understand. When the team charged again and again, and failed again and again, only countless corpses of comrades would be left on the road of charge. When charging again, the soldiers would feel fear when looking at those corpses. Most people's calves would tremble. That is the fear from human nature. Quote, for the knowledge on the battlefield, some people rely on experience, and some people rely on talent. Chenny is a good kid. The third generation woke up from his memories, patted Shanchung Shigeiki's shoulder, and walked straight to other classes. So, he wants to change direction. Shanchung Shigeiki murmured. The sun sets. In a small courtyard, Kie, sweating profusely, runs in a small circle in the courtyard with a specific physical step. Every time he takes a step, his arms will stretch, and then he will hit his palms against each other in front of his chest many times, and finally his hands will seal at the speed of afterimages. And a trace of chakra in his body will be diverted and gathered in his respiratory tract, but strangely, the ninjutsu will always fail. Then from Kia's asthma-like breathing, a few wisps of black smoke emerge. While Kie continues the cycle, he looks up at the fiery clouds in the sky, where the outline of the moon can be vaguely seen. His black eyes become extremely cold. Kagaya, Momoshiki, Urashiki, Kinshiki, the Otsutsuki clan. I, Nanaya, have never been someone who sits and waits for death. My destiny is in my own hands. As a time traveler, how could Nanaya not know that the biggest threat in Naruto is those aliens? As an orphan of a civilian ninja, he could only passively wait for the plot to develop and passively survive in this world of fire and blood. But when the village gave him the relics of his original parents, Nanaya, who accidentally opened the system because of learning chakra refining, decided to turn passivity into initiative. The evaluation attribute settings of this book are Genin 1 to 3, Chunin 4 to 6, Jonin 7 to 9, Cage level 10, the upper limit of human beings. Beyond the upper limit can only evolve, similar to blood limit, blood elimination, and practice of immortal arts. Super Cage level 11 to 13, Six Paths level 14 to 16, Super Six Paths 17 to 19, Creation reaching the upper limit of the current dimension, infinite life, immortal body, such as Kagaya 20. The level of skills has nothing to do with the evaluation attributes. Simplified system for basic training. Ninjutsu simplified. For each time a basic ninjutsu is released, the proficiency of the same type of ninjutsu increases by 1 point. After the basic ninjutsu reaches the maximum level, it can automatically derive advanced ninjutsu. The scope of ninjutsu derivation and collection is limited by the scope of ninjutsu assessment. Physical skills simplified. For each time a basic physical skill is performed, the proficiency of the learned physical skills increases by 1 point. Each level of assessment can increase the damage by 10%, and the current increase is 40%. Genjutsu. 0. Strength simplified. For arm extension movement, move once, increase 1.95,668 100,000ths. Speed simplified. For run 1 meter, increase 1.95,468 100,000ths. Spirit simplified. 5 deep sleep, increase 1 point per second, can increase chakra control including attribute changes, increase pupil power, increase illusion resistance 1,233 200,000ths. Chakra simplified. 6 exhale chakra release speed increases by 1 point, inhale chakra quantity increases by 1 point, release speed improvement 60% 56,568 500,000ths. Hand seal simplified. 9 clap your hands to increase your proficiency, current rate 9 hand seals per second, 4,999,885 5 millionths. Chakra attributes. Fire, Yang. Bloodline, none. Skills. General. 3 body techniques basic, level 2, kunai throwing basic, level 1. Physical techniques. Shadow dance leaf level 4, Konoha whirlwind level 4, instant body technique, high-speed movement level 4. Fire style. Great fireball technique basic, level 10. Sea-level derivative Great Fireball Technique Level 1, Phoenix Fire Technique Level 1, Dragon Fire Technique Level 1. Yang Escape. None. P.S. The system is written more comprehensively for the first time, so that the handsome readers know what the system mechanism is. In the future, the details will be written separately when there are changes or needs. If the complete data appears again, please be gentle, it is just the poor author who wants to increase the word count. Kie looked at the system panel, and a sense of confidence arose in his heart. This is the foundation of his survival. The system is very simple. In Kia's understanding, this is a modifier of the training conditions, but the modification conditions need to be triggered by himself. Learning chakra extraction is the first time to trigger the system. From feeling and refining the chakra in the cells, it is simplified to breathing. And in the relics, including every corner of the house, in addition to the universal 3-body technique and Konoha physical technique, there are only 2 basic ninjutsu, fire escape big fireball and wind escape wind blade. Nanaya, who has an adult mindset, naturally understands that his parents, who are elite shunins of Konoha, cannot have only this much wealth, but people have to bow their heads under the eaves. Fortunately, the simplified system is very powerful. When he practiced the Great Fireball technique to the maximum level, it automatically derived the chakra operation method of the subsequent advanced fire escape ninjutsu. More importantly, he does not need to practice those advanced ninjutsu that are easy to expose his cultivation. He only needs to continue to perform the Great Fireball technique to improve his proficiency. As for the wind blade from his mother's wind attribute, because he has no corresponding attributes, the system did not include him. Now he is 10 years old, and only the simplified items of illusion, chakra attributes, and bloodline have not been opened in the panel. The former is because he has no chance to learn the basic techniques of illusion, and the latter two are unclear about the conditions for opening. But Kie is not in a hurry, because his time and energy are limited. In his most vulnerable childhood, specialized training is much more important than comprehensive development. So he developed such a training method. Combine all simplified training methods together to improve your efficiency as much as possible. As for the bug of the card system, what can you do with a plugin without wisdom? What are the conditions for opening the bloodline? Kie took the time to pull his short flat head and muttered to himself. Okay, he is just stubborn. Anyone who has seen Naruto knows the importance of bloodline in it. Bang bang bang. The gate of the courtyard was knocked. Kie, are you home? Kie rolled his eyes, his fierce look instantly turned helpless, and his gloomy face suddenly became righteous. As expected, seeing no one answering in the yard, the door was slowly pushed open, and a little yellow-haired head stuck in. I knew you were home. Minato smiled brightly, and then walked to the edge of the wooden house and sat down as if he was at home. Kie ignored him and continued to work hard on his proficiency. His seal was finally going to be full level. Now he just wanted to know the changes after the seal was full level. Minato had long been accustomed to Nanaya ignoring everyone during his training, so he said to himself, "No one is targeting you today, don't think too much. They came to me after class and asked me to say sorry on their behalf." Nanaya raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but complain. "Little yellow-haired radish, don't make yourself more dramatic, can they apologize to me? This is not how you act as a good person." I lost a few points in chakra proficiency. Nanaya couldn't help but speed up his breathing, and the panting sound directly changed from asthma to dog panting. Minato was exposed, and he touched his yellow hair in embarrassment. It can be seen that Nanaya is still the same. He was also a little angry and jumped down from the edge of the house. "I know what kind of person you are, but they don't know. Your crooked ideas will not be recognized by everyone. Quote. Nana, I'm talking to you. Quote. Nana, let's fight." Minato was angry and looked at Nanaya very seriously. This emotion has been accumulated for more than 1 or 2 days. It's about to end, and you and I haven't really fought. Don't think about fooling me again. Although I don't understand your training method, I know that your physical strength is better than mine. When Nanaya passed in front of Minato, he stepped on the spot, keeping breathing and arm movements. Although he didn't speak, Minato, who was familiar with Nanaya, had already interpreted the answer from the other's eyes. "Let's fight according to the unlimited fighting rules you mentioned." Before Minato finished speaking, Nanaya's right arm turned into a residual shadow and attacked. At this moment, Minato's dynamic vision talent can see it clearly, and he even has time to remember what Nanaya said at the beginning. The villain dies because of talking too much. But his current body can't keep up with his reaction. He can only tighten his abdomen and slightly release the power backwards. Puff! The yellow-haired little carrot head hugged his abdomen, his face flushed, and tremblingly stretched out his right index finger to point at Nanaya, and then slowly knelt on the ground. Nanaya seemed to be fine, and continued to maintain his own rhythm and started running in a small circle. Well, the proficiency of 45 has lost 100 million, but in exchange for peace. It's a good deal. The setting sun continues to set in the west. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The seal is full level. The fiery afterglow shone on Kia's righteous face. The corners of his mouth curled up involuntarily. But in the eyes of Minato, who had not yet recovered, this was undoubtedly the smile of a devil. Seal, simplified 10 any ninjutsu releases, ignoring the number of pre-seals, just make a hand seal to activate chakra max advanced to level 11, need to break through the biological limit. Kie looked at the explanation and was very surprised. The simplification of these 10 levels is only inferior to someone's, clap your hands and shout whatever you want. It's just changed from clapping to a hand seal. Kie turned his back and made a sea seal with both hands. Sure enough, the Great Fireball technique, which originally required 6 pre-seals to mobilize chakra, began to accumulate energy directly. Coupled with the 60% blessed release speed, in just a moment, Kie felt that his throat was blocked by something, and he couldn't help but vomit. But this is just an experiment, and he is not the only one at this time. Although from a certain perspective, thanks to his efforts, Xiaoluotu is one of us, but some things are not suitable to be exposed now. So under the control of his powerful mental power, the chakra crowded in his throat returned to his body, and then he burped and released a cloud of black smoke. Fire escape proficiency +1. That's right, Kie also got stuck in the system bug like this before. It's just that the fireball technique was released. After all, as a basic technique, the number of seals is less and the release speed is faster. Satisfied, Kie is ready to end today's practice. After all, he is a person, and he can't do without eating, drinking. Practice is not like playing online games, but requires him to consume a lot of physical strength and energy. Why don't you go cook? What are you pretending to be here? Kie walked leisurely to Minato, grabbed the other's arm pointing to him with one hand, and prepared to pull him up. Slow down, internal injuries. Minato's originally flushed face turned a little pale at this time. Isn't it right? The speed and strength are good for me. Such a great lethality. Wait, some time ago, the physical skills were upgraded to level 4. There is an additional 10% damage bonus. This time it was Kia's turn to pull the flat head awkwardly. The power of physical skills comes from physical qualities such as strength and speed. Unless chakra is added, it is impossible to break through the physical limitations from the rules. But Kie is different. Because of the existence of the simplified system, he can be regarded as practicing boxing and kicking kung fu when running. On this basis, each level will increase 10% damage. Simply put, the same punch, the same force and speed, but the damage caused is different. The specific power requires Kie to experiment by himself, but the physical quality has not improved, and the strength and speed have not changed. It is a waste of time to experiment. So Kie ignored this problem for a while. Ah, are you okay? Kie squatted awkwardly. Look at me, PFF'd. I look fine. The little yellow-haired carrot head spat out a mouthful of blood from his chest, and finally felt much better. He spoke more fluently, but his spirit was a little weak. And this mouthful of blood happened to be spat on Kie's face. Minato wanted to laugh and lowered his head quickly, but the pain in his abdomen prevented him from laughing. His sunny and handsome face twisted instantly. Pull me up, the ground is quite cold. ... After waiting for a while, seeing that Kie did not respond, Minato looked up again, and saw a scene that made his body stiff. Kie looked at him dully, and the blood on his cheeks flowed slowly into his mouth along the wings of his nose and the corners of his mouth. Then the other party actually stretched out his tongue to lick the blood on his lips. He even smacked his lips. It seemed like he was tasting it. Minato's body trembled, and his right hand instantly held Kie's hand, and then he tried to get up despite the discomfort. Chenny, are you okay? Kie, oh, it's okay, I'll help you into the house first, just go wash your face. Chenny finally came to his senses, but the shock in his heart did not subside at all. First, he let the yellow-haired man lean on his shoulder and helped him into the house, then Kie hurried to the bathroom inside the house. Hualala. Chakra attributes simplified: fire level 2, yang level 1, wind 4/100, thunder 4/100, yin 4/100. Absorbing blood can automatically simplify the chakra attributes extracted from it and convert them into simplified attributes of itself. The fusion of the same level attributes can eliminate the prerequisite attribute conditions for learning related bloodline limits or bloodline elimination ninjutsu. Note: the fusion of simplified attributes cannot form related bloodlines or fixed attributes, and cannot derive related ninjutsu. Bloodline simplified: none. Absorb blood, automatically simplify the extraction of bloodline genes, and convert them into your own bloodline. The growth conditions of bloodline can be simplified. Note: the chakra attributes or physical characteristics derived from the bloodline can generate fixed attributes, and high-level ninjutsu can be derived from basic ninjutsu. This is an unexpected gain. Kie did not expect that the simplification of chakra attributes and bloodlines would be so quickly. After careful analysis, he found that the two obviously complement each other. Although the former cannot form a fixed attribute like bloodline after fusion, as long as someone teaches him the relevant ninjutsu or secrets, he can directly learn it without the attribute conditions. Take the ice escape of the Hidden Mist village as an example. Even if the opponent's lineage is dead, as long as there are relevant secrets, he can bypass the learning prerequisite of the ice attribute through the fusion of wind plus water attributes. There are too many powerful composite attribute secrets in the ninja world, and there are also those secrets that no one can learn because of the loss of bloodline. Including those theoretical secrets and forbidden techniques studied in modern times. For others, these secrets cannot be used or experimented because of the attribute prerequisites, but for him, it is not a problem at all. The latter bloodline simplification is a complement to the former. As long as you get the bloodline, you can get the relevant attributes and characteristics. And after learning the relevant basic spells, you can also automatically deduce the subsequent high-level spells like your own fireball spell. No one teaches. The high-level secrets are controlled by those big families. Resources are not decentralized. Even the cultivation methods have been lost in the long river of history. It's okay. As long as there is bloodline, nothing is a problem. Hiei is very excited now. If the simplification of other basic cultivations is his guarantee to ensure his own safety in the current era, then the simplification of attributes and bloodline is the basis for whether he can achieve his goals in the future. The only thing that makes him a little confused now is that the growth of bloodline can be simplified. After all, he does not have any bloodline now. Hiei thought for a long time, slowly turned off the faucet, and the blood around his mouth had been washed by him. It seems that the plan needs to be accelerated. Hiei stared at the righteous self in the frame, gently wiped the blood that had dried at the corner of his mouth with his index finger, and then slowly held it in his mouth. He is not a good person, whether in the previous life or this life. He doesn't know how to define good people and bad people. He only knows what is useful to him and what is useless. A bad person in the eyes of others may be a profitable assistant to him. A good person in the eyes of others, if he blocks his way, then he is an enemy. Want to survive. Want to solve the threat of the Otsutsuki clan. He needs to use all the people and resources around him that can be used. No, to be precise, it should be uniting all forces, establishing common goals, and eliminating enemies that harm their common interests. And he did so. Whether it was the intention to approach the yellow-haired little carrot head many years ago, or the original plan after graduation. And now, the simplification of blood has brought variables. He needs to enter the game in advance. Hiei turned his head and looked towards the living room. In his perception, there was an uninvited guest, full of evil intentions, there. Nanaya walked into the living room with an apologetic look on his face. Nanaya, Minato was in good health when we met, why is he so weak now? Kushina looked at Nanaya and Minato sitting opposite with a suspicious look. Ahem, it's. Minato's pale face suddenly turned red. In front of the girl he likes, boys always care about some face issues. The red-haired girl is here too. Bang, sure enough. As Nanaya expected, Kushina's hair instantly exploded after hearing the word red-haired. Exploded in the physical sense. The fiery red hair mixed with fiery red chakra floated in the air. And the table at home had been hit by the other party and a deep pit had been made. Looking at Nanaya with an innocent face, Minato and Kushina sighed at the same time. The difference is, Minato turned his head and blinked at Nanaya, sending out the signal of good brother. Kushina reluctantly retracted her momentum. Say it again. Call me Kushina. This was not the first time that Kie called her that, but unlike those who discriminated against her by giving her a nickname, Kie never had any discriminatory intentions in her words, behavior or eyes. Just like calling Minato, the little yellow-haired radish head, the red-haired girl, seemed to be what Kie called her in his heart. And according to Minato and her subsequent observations, it seemed that only those who Kie recognized would be specially given a nickname, and they would be more eccentric when they were together, not so serious. As a friend, Kushina could only accept her fate. The goal was achieved, and Kie had no intention of provoking the other party again. Have you two eaten? Minato is like this, can he still cook? I'll do it today. You can cook. Then you always ask Minato to cook. Kushina asked in surprise with her eyes wide open. Kie ignored the two and went directly to the kitchen to start cooking. His stomach was already growling with hunger. In less than 30 minutes, 4 or 5 home-cooked dishes were already placed on the small solid wood table. Among them, Kie specially placed a plate of scrambled eggs with tomatoes on the deep pit that had just appeared. Kushina sat aside with disdain, just close to Minato. Okay, no need to remind me. I'll find you a new table tomorrow. Kie nodded with satisfaction, put the instant ramen with salt added in front of the red-haired girl, and he sat opposite the two. Let's eat. Facing these two people, Kie has no habit of courtesy. Kushina and Minato also knew it, and hurriedly picked some of their favorite dishes into their own exclusive dishes, and then watched Kie clean up the remaining dishes like a whirlwind. It's delicious. Does it taste so familiar? Kushina asked after carefully taking a few bites. Minato's blue eyes flickered slightly when he heard this. How can it not be familiar? I learned it from Minato. Kie said calmly. Yes. It's the taste. But you made it even better than him. Kushina began to eat with big mouthfuls, not noticing the touched look of the little yellow-haired boy. Since the day Kushina transferred to the school, Minato felt as if a hole had been opened in his heart, but he was shy and always didn't know how to do it. Kie, who saw everything and knew the ending, was ready to help his little brother. Of course, he also had his own plans. So Kie began to teach the course of wrong logic to pick up girls. In order to get Minato, whose mind was jumping out of control, back on track, Nanaya simply assumed Kushina as an enemy, and then asked Minato to apply all the knowledge and tactics he had learned in the academy, especially spying intelligence. Nanaya heard that this matter once disturbed the Anbu, and didn't know whether it was true or not. Anyway, when the intelligence was almost collected, Nanaya began to teach Minato how to cook with the point of, if you want to catch a woman, you must first catch her stomach. The result was gratifying. Minato felt that his relationship with Kushina had made substantial progress. And Nanaya also had a little brother who often cooked for him, which allowed him to save a lot of time for practice every day. In this situation today, according to Nanaya's ability to plan, he should lower the level of cooking to be more perfect. But he really didn't want to accommodate him when it came to eating. Usually Minato cooked, and it was good to have something to eat, and time was really saved. As for cooking by yourself, since you have wasted time and effort, Kie would never want to cook something unpalatable and treat your stomach badly. After a good meal and a good drink, Kie cooks while the other one hurts members, the rest are washing dishes. Kushina went to wash dishes while cursing. Kie, I didn't expect you to be so strong. Minato looked at the dim night and murmured. No matter how strong you are, you will be cannon fodder after entering the battlefield. Kie felt the breeze blowing in his face and stared at the moon that had appeared in the sky, gently. He had to watch the moon every night to remind himself that the greatest danger had never been lifted. To be honest, these words are just to talk to us, don't say them in front of so many people like today. Minato looked at Kie seriously. Kie replied irrelevantly. What do you think is the biggest reason why a secret ninja team that mainly hides entered the enemy's war zone to perform a mission and was discovered and attacked by the enemy at the first time? Minato was a little confused by the question, and then remembered the question from Mr. Yamashiro in the tactics class today. But without waiting for Minato to answer, Nanaya said to himself. The best case scenario is that our ninja team is not strong enough and has revealed its flaws and been discovered by the enemy. The second is that the enemy has strong reconnaissance ninjas or extremely powerful ninjas. The worst case scenario is that the intelligence of our raid has been exposed. This is not a positional battle in our area, but an enemy-occupied area and a chaotic battle area. If we don't retreat along the same route, are we waiting for the enemy to surround us? But complete the mission. Minato was a little anxious, but Nanaya didn't give him a chance at all. I said retreat, but did I say I would not complete the mission? Save the existing combat power. Redetermine the raid plan, and more importantly, determine whether your own intelligence has been leaked. Only by staying alive can you complete the mission better. Minato, the real battlefield is not a place where you can decide the outcome by just saying a few words in the tactical course. As a ninja, if it is not necessary, don't think about defeating the enemy head-on with your own ability. Head-on attack is the stupidest. Nana didn't know if Minato could listen to it. He just passed on his battlefield experience in his previous life to the other party. After all, in the near future, because the battle situation was tense and the troops were seriously lacking, these graduated genin would also be sent to the battlefield. Although the trajectory of fate is difficult to change, he has traveled to this world. Who knows whether history will go down along the original route. No matter what the purpose is, Nana doesn't want his little brother to become cannon fodder on the battlefield because of his butterfly. Minato was silent for a long time, and Kushina watched the two in the inner room. So, this is your judgment on the battle of the three ninjas. Is it your anger at the death of your parents? Kie knew that the other party had misunderstood. The example of the three ninjas fighting Hanzo was not applicable here. It was a battle that had to be fought, and it was a necessary battle. It was a battle that made people know that the demigod was not a god, after all. But he did not explain. Some things just need to be left to take root. There is no need to force them to grow. When the other party needs it, they will naturally understand and do it. But this made Minato mistakenly think that Kie had acquiesced. Kie, do you still plan to participate in the assessment of the Fire Country Guard after graduation? This question hit Kie's heart. Originally, he planned to leave Konoha after graduation, enter the capital of the Fire Country, and participate in the election of the Daimyo Guard. First, stay away from the vortex of Konoha. At least if you join the guard, you will not be sent to the front line. Even if you are sent, you will face the confrontation between the armies of countries. He has too many ways to avoid the battle, which can increase a lot of chances of survival. The second is to continue to practice, and at the same time, to obtain more resources by operating the forces in the daimyo's mansion. At this stage, the Konoha village is still a mercenary force formed mainly by families. As a civilian ninja, he can operate too few things without exposing his strength. But it's different after the attribute simplification and bloodline simplification are enabled. I've figured it out. I won't go. I'm a citizen of the Land of Fire, but I'm also a member of Konoha. This is where my parents dedicated their lives. Although I hate war, it doesn't mean I won't contribute to Konoha. I will inherit my parents' will of fire. Seven Knights said with a righteous face. Minato was surprised by this sudden turn, and then said happily. Great, are you willing to join the ninja team? Then maybe we can become teammates. Seven Knights silently gave his little brother a thumbs up, which was really comfortable for the latter. I won't join the squad. It's the source of war that represents death. My parents died from serious injuries, so I decided to try to enter the medical system after graduation. I want to bring hope of life to the village. A week later, the Hokage's office was filled with smoke. In the dark, Hiruzen exhaled a thick smoke from his mouth. Below him, on both sides, sat a group of jonin including the three ninjas and many graduating chunin teachers in the ninja school. Let's arrange it this way. Students who fail to pass the assessment of guiding jonin will be returned to the ninja school, and the rest of the teams can start to accept trial tasks from tomorrow. The third generation made a final decision on the distribution of the genin leaks. Yamashiro Shigeiki was hesitant to speak. Although Nanaya passed the graduation exam, he clearly gave up joining the team and was automatically classified as a returned person. He wanted to explain to the Hokage, but he didn't know how to start. Shigeiki, you want to talk about Chenny, right? Stay for a while. Hiruzen knocked off the ash of his cigarette, and the documents that everyone had just handed in had been spread out, and it was Chenny's page. The rest of the staff continued to walk out. Chenny. Whose child? I don't know. That's none of my business. Jiraiya frowned slightly after hearing this, then suddenly realized and pulled Tsunade who was about to leave. Tsunade, who was beginning to take shape, was confused. She was only attending the meeting as a senior ninja. Since she won the poison war with Chio, she has been working in the hospital as a medical ninja. Wait a minute, I may need your opinion on something. Yeah, Tsunade knew that Jiraiya would not do anything without a purpose, so she crossed her arms and waited there. Anyway, in order to celebrate for her younger brother Noace and Kushina today, she asked for a day off from the hospital, so it didn't matter if she wasted this time. The last of the three ninjas didn't care so much. He had to quickly look for tomorrow's mission, target, and let his good apprentice grow up as soon as possible. I'm leaving first. Remember to let Noace come to me on time tomorrow. Orochimaru said lightly, then turned around and walked out. Tsunade waved her hand with her back to him, indicating that she understood. Is Chenny's war weariness so serious? Ignoring the presence of Jiraiya and Tsunade, Hiruzen asked Yamashiro Shigeiki directly. He told me about this on the first day he returned to school. I thought he would be able to adjust his condition over the years, but I didn't expect. Don't blame him, it's just a pity for a good seedling. We respect his wishes. In this way, the school allows normal graduation, but his ninja evaluation needs to be revoked. Ah, Lord Hokage, it's like this now. Chenny is going to go to the hospital to study as a graduated ninja, but there is no such precedent in this area. Yamashiro Shiga turned sideways and glanced at Tsunade. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya unexpectedly. Teacher, I have learned part of this child's situation. Namikaze Minato admires him very much. To bring hope of life to the village, is his original words. Jiraiya added a sentence at the right time. As a guiding Jonin, he needs to know the status of every member in the genin class. When chatting with Minato, the name Nanaya often appears. After the bell-grabbing test yesterday, the other party was obviously not as sunny as before. After asking, he found out. It turned out that Minato's good brother voluntarily gave up forming a ninja team, and instead went to Konoha Hospital in the past few days, hoping to find a medical ninja to become his teacher, but the result was obvious and it did not succeed. As the Hokage, the third Hokage thought further ahead and asked directly. Tsunade, you are now responsible for the construction of the medical system. What do you think about the recruitment and training of personnel? When it comes to her job, Tsunade is not careless at all. Now that wars are frequent, medical ninjas are stretched to the limit, and there are even fewer people who know advanced medical ninjutsu. Therefore, the existing medical system mainly focuses on normal surgical operations and drug treatments. In terms of training, at least 4 to 6 years of systematic learning is required. This is just for ordinary doctors. If it is a medical ninja, it depends on talent. In terms of personnel recruitment, of course I personally would like to recruit as many as possible, and it is best to train from an early age, but in the current situation, those medical ninjas really don't have time to take students. Tsunade's words are not false at all. Among Konoha's medical ninjas, 7 or 8 out of 10 are sent to set up medical stations near the front line. Ordinary wounded can be simply treated after returning, while those with more serious injuries need to be sent back to Konoha to be treated by those ninjas who know advanced medical ninjutsu. Even so, Konoha's hospital is always crowded. Letting a 10-year-old child study here, that would only cause trouble. Hey, this kid is close to Kushina and Minato. Jiraiya, the more she heard it, the more she felt something was wrong, so she quickly muttered something. Tsunade's forehead was black. Didn't she just say that she wanted to hear opinions? This is her opinion. But she changed the subject. I have recently been researching a rapid training process based on self-study. Its main purpose is to allow talented ninjas to master simple medical ninjutsu through self-study, so as to provide timely battlefield first aid and maintain the status of the wounded. This child can come and try, but if he has no talent, I can't keep him. Hiruzen frowned slightly after hearing this. He heard some other signs from Tsunade's words. Now they are training some medical ninjas for rapid emergency response, but what about in the future? Grab the quota for combat ninjas. The base number of qualified ninjas that the village can train every year is here, and the main combat direction and the main medical direction are completely two concepts. Although he also knows the importance of ensuring the manpower, once this precedent is set, once the ratio of the number of people is unbalanced, who will carry out the tasks that the village will take in the future? How to generate income? Raid, sabotage, escort and other tasks, are they all changed to rescue and heal the wounded? As expected, Jiraiya is still too soft-hearted. Tsunade does not have the vision of a ruler, only Orochimaru is the most suitable to inherit the Hokage. Hiruzen pondered in his heart. The position of Hokage is not suddenly selected when the previous one abdicates, but needs to be trained early. Tsunade, after the war is over, the village will grant you some special quotas every year. You can take this opportunity to improve your training process. Hiruzen said to Tsunade with a smile. Tsunade smiled carelessly. She felt that this was the master's recognition. Shigeiki, you give this note to Nanaya. Let Nanaya go to Tsunade tomorrow with the note. It is considered a special approval for the experiment, and it is also a good explanation to the medical system, not breaking the rules. Hiruzen waved his hand, wrote a small note, and then handed it to Yamashiro Shigeiki. Okay, go get busy. Hiruzen stood up and stood in front of the window, looking to the west, where the main battlefield of the conflict between fire and wind was. Now the process of ninjas gathering intelligence is almost the same. It won't be long before the local conflict between the armies will likely turn into a war. The pressure on Konoha will also increase. Tsunade, who was rushing home, had a gossipy look on her face. She had to ask that little girl Kushina quickly. Minato knew what was going on with Nanaya, who appeared again. The next day, early in the morning, the flat-headed Nanaya, dressed in black, holding a wooden box, stood still in the busy Konoha emergency building. He didn't expect that he would achieve his goal after just complaining for a week. And it was so perfect. In his plan, whether it was the little yellow-haired carrot head influencing Jiraiya and then influencing Tsunade, or the red-haired girl influencing Tsunade directly, it would take at least a month. At worst, he could create some opportunities by constantly harassing the hospital. Special approval. He just needs to meet once. Then there is a way to make Tsunade teach him basic medical ninjutsu through betting and other methods. Finally, he can show his genius side and enter the hospital. What's next? Will chakra attributes and bloodline be far away? Blood bank. Me, Chi vampire cherish every drop night. Here we come. Get out of the way. Whose child is this? Can't you see this is the emergency passage? An emergency bed was pushed to the emergency room by 2 nurses. On the bed, a medical ninja was kneeling on a bloody human creature. His hands continued to glow green, pressed against the heart and abdomen of the rescuer. It was this medical ninja who shouted, and when he passed by Kie, he glared at him fiercely. But Kie didn't care at all. His eyes are red now. Look at the blood dripping on the ground. It hurts. What a waste. Of course, he believes from the bottom of his heart that every patient should be alive. After all, he still knows which is more valuable, disposable, props, or sustainable development. No matter how good the blood bank is, no matter how large the blood volume is, who knows whether it is strictly guarded and the blood target is not clear. But it's different for those lying on the bed. Even if some things cannot be seen from the name, as a doctor, isn't it normal to ask some routine questions about blood and chakra attributes? Little brother, stand over here, you will disturb others there. A little nurse passing by said to Kie in a hurry, and then trotted to get busy. It was still early in the morning, and there were not many people walking in the emergency building, but the doctors and nurses did not stop at all. Kie, who had been here for several days, naturally understood what was going on. The intelligence work on the front line was too stressful. It was safer to stay in the village. He didn't want to be one of those who were carried back. Kie became more determined about his short-term goal, and then walked straight to the safe passage, ready to go to Tsunade's office. He had been here for so many days, and he had already found out the information he should have found out. Soon, Kie arrived at the 5th floor, which is the highest floor that ordinary people can reach. Going up further is the emergency operating room and the intensive care unit, and the safety passage cannot go up at all. Bang, bang, bang. Kie stood in front of a door and knocked. Come in. Kie pushed the door open and walked in. Tsunade, who was wearing a white coat and writing furiously, looked up and glanced, and continued to write the case on the table. Hello, Tsunade-sama, I am. Little kid, Minato collected the information of Pepper because of you. Quote. Quote. Big sister, at least you can raise your voice and ask a question. How can I answer you? I was interrogated by Jiraiya yesterday, and Minato has confessed everything. Quote. Quote. Little brother, you'd better stop being a ninja. Is it okay to expose your teammates? Have you collected enough information about me? Tsunade's nose trembled slightly, sniffing like a puppy. Is this a tender chicken? Just put it here. Quote. Quote. Do you still want to bet with me? No need to go through so much trouble. Tsunade opened the drawer of the desk and took out a scroll and a small book and put them on the table. Go to the emergency room on the 1st floor and find a chunin named Kamimura Tano. I have already told him about your matters. I will come to assess you in a week and will also listen to his evaluation of you. If you pass, you will stay. If you fail, you will leave. Keep the special approval slip for yourself and give it to me if you pass. If you fail, it will be a piece of waste paper. Quote. Quote. Anything else? You can leave now. Kie insisted on maintaining his serious person persona. He walked over with a serious face and put the roasted chicken on the table. Then he picked up the scroll and the small book and turned around and left. Close the door. Quote. Quote. Bang. Tsunade's mouth curled up slightly, and then her eyes lit up as she looked at the wooden box on the corner of the table. Little brat, you have successfully attracted my attention. Thesis that the secret roast chicken that Chili mentioned. With this kid's devilish mind, it should be better than Minato's, right? Bang, bang, bang. Ha, Tsunade quickly regained her serious look. Go in, Tsunade-sama. A ninja with organ failure is admitted to the hospital. The other adults who can hold fairy arts are busy, and the operating room needs your support. Let's go. Tsunade's pupils shrank slightly, and she ignored the roast chicken and disappeared with the medical ninja at the door in an instant. Kie looked at the slightly familiar face of the young man in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh why there is no almanac in this world. Unlike Kie, Kamimura Tieni is very familiar with Kie. After all, it was the other party who almost hindered their transfer of the seriously injured not long ago, and that was multiple organ failure. Every second is important. Inoue, take a look, I'll be out for 5 minutes and be back soon. Kamimura Tieni turned around and said to another doctor in the emergency room. Okay, teacher. A boy who was estimated to be around 15 years old replied nervously, and then looked at Kie curiously. Come with me, follow closely, I don't have that much time. Uemura Tieni glanced at Kie coldly, and then ran along the pedestrian passage to the back door of the emergency room. Very quickly, the two came to a large building. This is the cafeteria of the hospital. You stay here and don't run around. Eat the staff meal when you are hungry. I don't have that much time to teach you. I can only teach you once. Give me the scroll. Chai heard the words and handed the scroll that Tsunade gave him to Uemura Tieni. The basic medical ninjutsu is the healing technique. It concentrates the yang attributed chakra in the palm and aims at the treatment target. It can achieve the effect of healing for ordinary injuries and stabilize the injuries for seriously injured patients whose cells have already died. The difficulty lies in the continuity and stability of the chakra. I don't have time to beat around the bush with you. For you who have just graduated and have not undergone systematic training, this is very difficult, so Tsunade-sama proposed an improved plan for the healing technique. We call it the hemostasis technique. The operation time is short, it treats the symptoms but not the root cause, and is used for postoperative healing and battlefield emergency. If you can use the hemostasis technique normally within a week, it means that you have a talent in this area, and there will naturally be other arrangements at that time. Uemura Tieni said while gathering a special wave of green chakra on his palm. After letting Kie feel it carefully, he instilled it into the scroll. This is just a test. Medical ninja is not as simple as you think. Medical skills come first, and ninjutsu comes later. You need to learn too much. The scroll was handed back to Kie. Then Uemura Tieni knocked on the iron door. After a while, a middle-aged strong man pushed the door open. Uncle Tianping, this is Kie, a candidate in the hospital. As usual, if he needs fish, you can provide it to him. If you want to eat, it's in my name. Okay, I got it, Kie, right. Come with me, I'll take you to see your baby. The uncle patted his apron and gave Uemura Tieni a look of, I understand. Take care of yourself. Without waiting for Kie to reply, Uemura Tieni accelerated and ran towards the emergency room again. Emergency room. Teacher, is the one named Kie just now my future junior brother? Oga Inoue whispered to Uemura Tieni who was treating the wounds of the injured. It depends on his talent and efforts. If he is not lazy like you, the chakra in the scroll will only be enough for him to feel it in the afternoon at most. He should come to me to re-infuse chakra. After a week, talented people can almost master the fluctuations. After hearing this, Okawa Inoue blushed a little. 3 years ago, when he was 12 years old, he also experienced such a thing, but he was free on the first day. He had no self-discipline at all. He waited until the next day to find Uemura Tieni to infuse chakra again. The final assessment was almost unqualified. I hope the future, little junior brother, can understand the purpose of the assessment. It's too boring for a person to recite medical books every day. While watching Uemura Tiani's surgical techniques, Okawa Inoue thought silently in his heart. On the other side, Kie didn't think so much. After opening the scroll, he just glanced at the recorded trajectory of human chakra operation, and didn't feel the fluctuations at all. No way, isn't it enough to remember fluctuations, which are related to mental control, once? If the first item on Tsunade's booklet hadn't said, saving fish, is the best way to experience the experiment, he wouldn't have sat in a pile of big fish that were rolling their eyes and about to die, in front of him. Kie pulled his short flat head and put one hand on the nearest big fish with a bored look on his face. The green chakra wrapped around his palm in an instant at 60% acceleration. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. This has exceeded the limit of hemostasis and reached the stable and continuous level of healing. The big fish, which was dying due to lack of oxygen, became lively again and threw water all over Kie. Tisk, it's so boring to have plugins. I can't feel the happiness of the learning process at all. The sense of accomplishment at the end of the harvest is naturally pitiful. Yang escape. Healing technique basic level 1. Bored Kie began to flip through the slightly old booklet in his hand. Tsunade is still very concerned. The booklet records her practice of hemostasis and healing techniques and a set of fast training methods. But these are of no use to Kie. But when Kie turned to the last few pages, his originally calm eyes suddenly fluctuated. Because the content of the Palm Immortal technique was clearly marked on it. And the characteristics of the ninjutsu. The Palm Immortal technique, due to its high requirements for chakra control, has very few users. Its role in cell activation is not comparable to other ninjutsu. In single medical ninjutsu, it has an irreplaceable role. It can be compared with the healing technique to find a breakthrough and create a transitional ninjutsu similar to the hemostasis technique. Single quote. This is Tsunade's last note. Obviously, this is just a casual note made by Tsunade when she was thinking, and it also explains why a high-level medical ninjutsu appears in this booklet. For most ninjas, it is useless. But it is different for Kie. Related ninjutsu secrets with fixed attributes have been detected and are being collected. Yang escape. Healing technique basic level 1, Palm Immortal technique advanced level 1. The retribution is coming too fast. Just now I said I couldn't experience the happiness of the learning process. Isn't happiness here? As a collector and slightly obsessive compulsive, Kie really can't stand the existence of level 1. Let's not talk about fire escape. The big fireball technique used to require hand seals. Now, although only the first hand seal is needed, which greatly shortens the time, the throat can't stand it. So after the basic fire escape was maxed out some time ago, I could only watch the derivative ninjutsu all at level 1. But healing techniques are different. Kie used his powerful chakra control to control the yang attribute chakra on the tip of his little finger, emitting a faint green light. If Minato saw it at this time, he would definitely find something unusual with his dynamic vision. The seemingly, constantly on, green light is actually flashing at a very fast frequency. That's right, Kie is stuck with a bug again. 3 days. 3 days at most. He can upgrade the healing technique basic to the full level of 10. Palm technique can almost be upgraded to level 3. And more importantly, after the Yang escape ninjutsu basics reach level 10, Kie can automatically obtain the relevant advanced ninjutsu. This is a simplified feature from ninjutsu training. Ninjutsu Simplified 5. Every time a basic ninjutsu is released, the proficiency of the same type of ninjutsu increases by 1 point. After the basic ninjutsu reaches the full level, it can automatically derive advanced ninjutsu. The scope of ninjutsu derivation and inclusion is limited to the scope of ninjutsu evaluation. Only the healing technique and palm technique are included, and the ninjutsu attribute rating increases from 4 to 5. Once the healing technique reaches the full level, plus those derived Yang escape advanced ninjutsu, he can almost reach level 6. Then upgrade the ninjutsu level, and the ninjutsu can reach the 7-level Jonin rating attribute. His fire escape and Yang escape techniques can generate corresponding high-level ninjutsu. This is a snowball-like advantage. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Kie pulled a handful of hair again. What else do you want? Take action. Uncle Tianping looked at the new kid running out of the cafeteria in a strange way with a confused look on his face. This kid is even more lazy than the previous ones. No, this is no longer lazy. This is self-abandonment. Early morning 2 days later. Today's emergency building is relatively peaceful compared to the past. After all, most of the wounded on the front line are transported back in batches. For the emergency room, which is the busiest in the emergency building, it should be a rare moment of relaxation, but in fact, the atmosphere here is particularly depressing. Seeing that the situation is not good, the nurses have already gone to the nurse station to take refuge, and take turns to go to the cafeteria to eat breakfast and wait for the assignment. Okawa Inoue also wanted to go. After all, he was busy all night and his stomach was already empty. But when he saw Uemura Tano with a dark face, the words that were on his lips were swallowed back. It seems that this little junior brother has no hope. I don't know what he thinks. For 2 whole days, he would rather die than come here once. Single quote. Okawa Inoue reluctantly took out a human anatomy document, intending to use the spiritual food to fill his stomach. But his eyes still unconsciously glanced at the glucose infusion bottle placed aside. I don't know why, but my eyes are always a little dark. Uemura Tieni was actually so hungry that he could hardly hold on, but his dull apprentice had no sense of propriety. If it were normal, he would definitely call his apprentice to go for breakfast together, but he didn't have a penny in his pocket now. Thinking of this, the dark aura on Uemura Tianya's face became even heavier. All this is to blame on that kid. It would be fine if he didn't come for 2 days. Over the years, he has seen many candidates who have no self-control. At worst, he would be given a failed assessment, and then they would be strangers again. But when he took the time to secretly go for a midnight snack last night, he got bad news. That shameless kid actually ate 3 meals a day in the cafeteria these 2 days. Including coming for a midnight snack at night. The time he clocked was more accurate than his. That's fine too. But the kid didn't eat at the big pot, but went to the small kitchen restaurant that only hospital leaders go to. He ate, so he ate. It was just 8 meals. But he ordered all the hard dishes. Very nutritious food, commonly known as, order whatever is expensive. I heard from Uncle Tianping that the kid had more than a dozen dishes on the table, but he still finished them all. In the past 2 days, all the money was charged to Uemura Tieni. Not only did he eat up his monthly food allowance, but he also ate up his salary for this month. Uemura Tieni was unhappy on the spot after hearing this. It is an unwritten rule that candidates can be charged during the assessment period. But there is no such way to charge. And you, Tianping, are so old, would you let a child do this? Tianping was unwilling on the spot. He didn't want to. But the other party took out a note. On it is a special approval note for the experiment written and stamped by the Hokage himself. The other party directly used the Hokage to pressure him. He said that he was different from others. That was a special selection. It was an official way. It represented the face of the Hokage. After hearing this, Uemura Tano was speechless. This matter really could not be blamed on Uncle Tabi, so it could only be solved the next day. So, his wife took charge of the financial power at home, resulting in Uemura Tano who had no money on him and had to go back to the emergency room hungry again. It was also from this time that whenever Uemura Tano's stomach twitched, his face would darken a little. That was all the love for Nanaya. Gulp. Okawa Inoue looked at Uemura Tano in surprise. It seemed that he was hallucinating because of hunger. Did the teacher's stomach seem to growl just now? Everyone in the emergency room knew that Uemura Tano had the habit of secretly going out to eat supper alone at night. Originally, everyone had some complaints about this stingy behavior, but when they knew the other party's family background, they were left with pity and sympathy and did not expose him. After all, he just ate his own food and never ate or drank for free. After eating supper, why would he still cry? Uemura Tano, who pretended to be calm, suddenly brightened up. The opportunity has come. Your stomach is growling, go eat. Oga Inoue was confused and full of question marks. Even if he was hallucinating, he could still tell whether his stomach was growling or not. But forget it, as long as he can go to eat. Just as he was about to turn around and leave happily, Uemura Tano said again. By the way, bring me a copy too. Okay, teacher, will I keep your account? Okawa Inoue was so hungry that he was dizzy, and he had been reading medical literature all morning. His mind was no longer able to think straight, so he asked out loud. Uemura Tano's face darkened even more. What a joke. I won't keep your account. Oh, Okawa Inoue stared blankly at his teacher. According to convention, the other party would give him the corresponding money. Uemura Tano looked at his motionless apprentice in front of him, and suddenly felt that there was pitch black in front of him. Quote. Master Shodai, please send down the light of justice. Take me and that brat away. There is no room for me to live in this world. Wait, before you leave, should you take this disciple with you? Okawa Inoue waited for a long time, and then it was as if he had an electric shock. His mind was instantly clear. Especially when he saw his teacher's increasingly weird eyes. Then, he disappeared without a trace. Tanye, what's wrong with Inoue? I think his face doesn't look right. The voice came before the person arrived. The next moment, a blonde beauty walked into the emergency room. And the sunlight from the window of the emergency room happened to hit the other person's blonde hair. At this moment, Uemura Tianyi felt that Master Shodai really appeared. Give him a ray of justice. Tsunade, Tsunade, Master, quote. The grievance revealed in that shout was so sad that anyone who heard it would cry. Tsunade stumbled, grabbed the door frame and shouted. Take your time to talk. Don't move, just sit there, take your time to talk. She just took some time to ask about Nanaya's situation before going to work. Tsunade, with a black face, walked towards the cafeteria with Uemura Tano, who finally recovered. But when she arrived at the cafeteria door, she found that the huge restaurant inside had been surrounded by patients or their families. At this time, it happened to be the cafeteria's turn to open to the public. Tsunade felt something was wrong at the first time, and her sharp eyes saw Oga Inoue, who was on the outside of the crowd, tiptoeing and looking inside. Inoue, Oga Inoue, come here, quote. Uemura Tano's eyesight was not much worse, and he was more perceptive than his apprentice. He shouted before Tsunade called out. Oga Inoue heard someone calling his name, and when he looked back, he saw Tsunade and Uemura Tano. His originally worried expression suddenly turned into joy. Tsunade-sama. Tsunade-sama is here. Everyone make way. Tsunade-sama. Where is she? It's really Tsunade-sama. The child is saved. Everyone, make way. At this time, Oga Inoue had come to Tsunade's side. Tsunade, who was confused, asked, what's going on? Sir, there's a child inside who suddenly has multiple organ bleeding and lesions. He's already in a coma. Now there's only a medical ninja and a junior brother inside to help maintain his condition. Yeah, junior brother, quote. After hearing about multiple organ bleeding, Tsunade was shocked and prepared to dive into the crowd that had not yet dispersed. But then she reacted. Inoue was the youngest medical student among the many apprentices, and the rest were candidates. Where did the junior apprentice come from? It's that. Nanaya. What? Nonsense. Tsunade jumped directly into the center of the crowd. Uemura Tano was also shocked. Pulling Okawa Inoue, he squeezed into the crowd that was gradually gathering again. Uemura Tano finally came to the front of the crowd with Oga Inoue, and then he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Nanaya knelt on one knee and leaned over a kid in a hospital gown, his hands folded and suspended above his abdomen, emitting a continuous and stable green chakra. With Uemura Tano's current experience and vision, he instantly distinguished that this was not a simplified version of the medical ninjutsu, hemostasis technique, but an extremely standard, healing technique. 2 days. Am I starving to death? Otherwise, how could such a surreal fantasy appear? Have I practiced in vain for 8 years in my medical career? Tsunade was a little better. She had seen many ninjutsu geniuses, but she was still a little shocked in her heart, because she had much more experience than Uemura Tano and could see more things. In terms of chakra fluctuations and quality, this is not a simple learning, but mastery. Although the healing technique is simple, it is relative to other medical ninjutsu. For the basic ninjutsu of the same level, the actual control required for healing skills reaches the requirements of C-level ninjutsu. The healing skills performed by Kie obviously reached the level of being able to enter the operating room as an assistant only in terms of healing skills. How old is the other party? 10 years old. And what were you doing when you were 10 years old? Stealing wine, eating chicken and gambling. Well, it seems that at that time, I also know healing skills. Thinking of this, Tsunade's mentality is calmer. Heihui, what is the patient's current condition? Do you know the medical history? After seeing Kia's level, Tsunade is not so anxious. She was afraid that this kid would make trouble before. Tsunade, who came to the patient, did not start the treatment directly, but asked the medical ninja on the other side first. The other party maintained the same action as Kie, but the healing skill covered the position above the heart. Tsunade-sama, this is not my patient. His medical history is not clear. I only know his name is Akatsuka. He suddenly fell to the ground while communicating with this brother. Haruto and I happened to pass by. After a preliminary examination, we confirmed that he had liver bleeding and lesions, and also confirmed that he had signs of ninja poison. I asked Haruto to go to the adults quickly, but I didn't expect that his heart stopped beating in the middle. As a last resort, I had to ask this brother to intervene and help. That's right, the kid lying on the ground was Akatsuka, who also lost his parents during the famous battle of the Three Ninjas, and then reprimanded Nanaya for insulting his parents' heroic reputation in the tactics class. Ninja poison. Tsunade's face changed slightly. She didn't continue to ask why the other party asked a child to help. Her hands condensed green chakra, and then one hand covered Akatsuka's forehead, and the other was placed between her chest and abdomen. Akazuka, who was unconscious and had a ferocious expression, fainted directly. After a moment, Tsunade's expression suddenly changed. It's actually a modified poison of decay. Chio. This is troublesome. The healing technique cannot be interrupted. If you change people in the middle, the organs may be irreversibly damaged and affect other organs. Can you still hold on? Tsunade said to Kie solemnly. Kie nodded without hesitation. Not only the chakra in his hand, but even his body did not tremble at all. This powerful control made all the medical ninjas who could understand the scene amazed. This flat-headed, black-haired, black-clothed kid is no more than 12 years old. But he has the body control that only an elite medical ninja has. Heihui, let's switch hands. I have to force the toxin from the heart back to the liver first, otherwise once it affects the blood throughout the body, there will be no way to save it. 3, 2, 1. The medical ninja named Heihui finally withdrew his hand, breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat from his head, but when he saw Kia's seemingly unaffected state, he suddenly felt ashamed. Faced with this emergency, his performance was not as good as a child. Tsunade-sama, how about I replace Nanaya? The conditions do not allow it. The liver's ninja poison has reached the critical point. Once there is a gap, the toxin will burst out instantly. Kazuki, you go find the doctor responsible for this child. I need to know the child's medical history, and then arrange a sterile operating room of the highest level. When the cart comes, we will transfer directly. According to the emergency procedures for ninja poison, I have already asked Haruto to go. Tieni, evacuate the crowd, let everyone cooperate, and leave the way. Tsunade continued to shout. The crowd heard Tsunade's shouting and knew the severity of the child's condition. Without waiting for Kamimura Tianya's command, they moved to both sides spontaneously, and at the same time moved the surrounding tables and chairs to both sides, leaving a road leading to the cafeteria entrance. Watching the excitement actually comes from human exploration of the unknown, and knowing the cause and effect of things will trigger other emotions. At this moment, their compassion and empathy were triggered. After all, those who can come to the hospital are almost all patients or have someone in their family who is hospitalized. Wow! 6 medical ninjas pushed the emergency cart along the road that had been opened and ran straight to Kie and others. Tsunade-sama, are you here too? Kodo-sama, are you responsible for the medical treatment of this child? Tsunade looked at the old man in front of her and asked with a frown. Hey, when this child was admitted to the hospital early yesterday morning, the cause of the disease was just that the liver was pierced by the arrows of the robbers, so my subordinates received and performed emergency surgery. During the operation, no relevant examinations were done. Do you know that this child was poisoned by decay? Don't blame each other. Tsunade was furious and glared directly at the middle-aged man on the other side. The middle-aged man had a hard time speaking. As a chief physician, he knew these procedures, but the Konoha hospital was already overloaded due to the war in the front, and many tests were postponed on demand. Even if the child was admitted to the hospital for emergency treatment, which of the frontline wounded who needed to be sent back to the hospital for treatment was not seriously ill? Which one was not an emergency? After all this, the test report only came to him today, and when he found that the result was wrong, Haruto had already come to him in a hurry. Is it time to hold people accountable now? A life is right in front of you. A cold and plain voice sounded. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. Kie looked up at these high-ranking, big shots, with cold eyes, including Tsunade next to him. And at the moment of being glanced at, everyone had a feeling. They were being looked down, and crushed. There was silence all around. Get in the car. Save people. Tsunade gritted her teeth and said. The others finally reacted and carefully moved Akatsuka to the deliberately lowered emergency cart. This was to prevent Nanaya's healing technique from being interrupted by the movement of the body, and to maintain relative stability. Can you follow the car? Tsunade suddenly asked. Do you mean kneeling on the lathe? Nanai was clearly asking a question, but she used the tone of a statement, as if she was in Tsunade's office. The other people's faces changed drastically after hearing this. The kid in front of him, who obviously knows healing techniques, doesn't even know medical common sense. How can he follow the car? How can he maintain a continuous output of healing techniques on the road? But the next moment, Nanaya turned over and got on the bed, and the kneeling posture was exactly the same as the posture that the other party had made when he met Uemura Tano following the car 2 days ago. In addition, Nanaya also attached chakra to his lower limbs according to the needs, and fit tightly on the flatbed. Let's go. To the operating room. Tsunade took a deep look at Nanaya. The others swallowed the reprimands that were about to come out, raised the flatbed to a normal height, and pushed it out of the cafeteria. The speed was not fast, and they still maintained a skeptical attitude towards Nanaya, or in other words, this was to maintain the patient's life. But slowly, the speed kept increasing, because they found that the kid in front of them was too stable. Kazuki and Haruto, who helped earlier, stared blankly at the people who were leaving, and looked at each other. They had been with Nanaya for the longest time, and what they should have discovered and suspected had long been accumulated in their hearts. This is undoubtedly a greenhorn in the medical system. But he is also a genius. A genius in medical ninjutsu. A genius with healing skills that are not inferior to those of the attending physician. Tieni, this Kie is the kid assigned to your assessment, right? I heard he's very lazy and didn't come to see you for 2 days in a row. Facing Heihui's sudden change, Uemura Tianya's back teeth clenched. Who told you that? Tisk, there are no secrets between the girls in this nurse station. If you don't like him, why don't you transfer Kie to our inpatient department? I'll teach him reluctantly. Qingren joked. Heihui and Qingren knew very well that Kie had shown such strength now, and they didn't expect the emergency room to release him. But after the assessment, there will be visits and learning in various departments, so there will be something to talk about. Where to visit requires the suggestion of the person in charge. And Kie's person in charge is naturally Uemura Tieni. Gu, hey, it's not dinner yet. Let's go. Today, senior brother is the host. Let's treat junior brother to dinner. Uemura Tieni raised his eyebrows. What do you want to eat? It's already this late. Lunch. I have to go hand in my shift. It's lunchtime. I'll find you later. Hiwei watched Uemura Tieni leave. He smacked his lips and then looked towards the top floor of the emergency building. That was the highest level sterile operating room. This amazing new kid is going to soar to the top of the medical field. Chapter 11. On the top floor of the emergency center, the surgery waiting area. The 2 young medical ninjas in charge of pushing the cart looked at Nanaya, who was still motionless on the bed, with admiration. From the cafeteria to the top floor, it was unrealistic to say that the cart body did not shake at all, but the other party kept one action and was able to control the body to make fine adjustments in a very short time, always aiming the healing technique at the patient's injury. To be honest, although they could do it, it was the result of 7 or 8 years of hard work since the age of 12. It was precisely because of this that they admired this kid. This is not only explained by talent, but also the result of daily hard training. Should the adults be tempted? The 2 looked at the adults who were communicating. Sure enough, it was not just the chief physicians who had been observing the genius kid. Even Tsunade-sama and Izawa Koto-sama had been looking at him with scrutiny. Nanaya on the emergency cart was puzzled as to why everyone stayed here, but he did not open his mouth to reprimand them as he did in the cafeteria. It was not that he suddenly became timid, but Nanaya had his own principles. He would never participate in things he was not good at. Without knowledge, he had no right to speak. He would not rashly disrupt other people's rules and rhythms, which would only cause trouble. Including in the cafeteria, although Akatsuka suddenly fell to the ground and fainted, he did not intervene rashly, even though his healing skills were already level 9. Instead, the 2 medical ninjas who claimed to be inpatient doctors intervened directly. He just watched from the side and explained the situation before and after the coma. The ninja named Kazuki first judged that Akatsuka had sudden liver bleeding and ninja poison infection, so he controlled it himself and asked the medical ninja named Haruto to call for help. But not long after Haruto left, Akatsuka's heart stopped beating because of the ninja poison that had erupted in the liver before. Kazuki could only control one organ, so he called for medical ninjas around who knew healing skills. But it was already time for the handover, and there were only some nurses or medical ninja trainees, who could only stop bleeding at most, and could not replace Kazuki's role. Seeing this, Kie had to show his healing skills, and then under Kazuki's guidance, Kie was responsible for the simpler task of protecting organs at the time, and Kazuki was responsible for cardiac emergency and forcing out poison. As for why he saved people, for Kie, all people and things in this world are useful, the key is how to use them. In Kie's opinion, saving Akatsuka has more advantages than disadvantages. Whether it is gaining fame, gaining profit, or gaining people, there are great benefits. The only disadvantage may be that some of his strength and talent are exposed, leading to premature entry into the sight of the top leaders. But this is also within his control and correction range, and Kie is not particularly worried. A burst of running sounds came. A team of 4 people wearing white coats with special patterns came to Tsunade. One of them panted and said, "I was just sealing in another operating room, so I'm late." Tsunade didn't blame him, but just nodded. She knew the situation of the medical sealing team in the hospital very well. "Thank you for your hard work. Let's seal it immediately." Then Tsunade came to Nanaya and said, "Keep your current state. The sealing team will seal it in a while. When you feel your chakra being stripped, don't panic or resist. Wait until it is completely out of control, and then withdraw your hands. Do you understand?" "I understand." After getting a clear answer, Tsunade nodded at the 4 people. The 4 people in the sealing team stood on both sides of Akatsuka. They first looked at Nanaya with curious eyes, and then began to perform the spell. After a while, a lavender cube wrapped Akatsuka's abdomen, including Nanaya's hands. In just a moment, Nanaya felt the stripping feeling, and then the stripped yang attribute chakra gradually got out of his control. Until his mind was completely unable to control the chakra attached to his hands, Kie instantly withdrew his hands. In the lavender barrier, there seemed to be a hollow mold of a hand condensed with chakra. "Seal!" The 4 shouted in unison, and then the chakra burst out. The purple cube gradually shrank, and finally shrank into Akatsuka's body, and on the other's exposed abdomen, a seal pattern like ink writing appeared. "Everyone prepare according to the tasks just assigned. The operation will start in 3 minutes." Tsunade shouted to the rest of the staff, then turned to look at Kie. "Okay kid, it was my fault in the cafeteria just now. I didn't distinguish the importance. I apologize to you and this patient. Believe me, I will definitely save him." Looking at Tsunade, who was smiling like a flower, Kie had to admit that the other party was more responsible than him. After Tsunade finished speaking, she turned around and walked directly to the locker room. Halfway through, she seemed to suddenly remember something, her eyes moved, and she suddenly turned back and said, "By the way, kid, I'm going to ask the Hokage to make a note, clearly stating that no food or accommodation is provided, and the signature time will be written 1 day before your note." Kie, who jumped down from the emergency bed, stumbled and almost sprained his foot. "Woman, you successfully attracted my attention. Your mission is over, and my mission has just begun. Do you want to come and see?" Tsunade smiled like a flower again. Quote. "Xiaochun, prepare a set of sterile surgical gowns for the kid behind me, and let him change into them after taking off and washing them." Quote. The nurse standing by blinked her big eyes, then responded as if she understood something, and walked over to take Kia's hand and walked to a separate dressing room. Chai's other hand was clenched tightly. "I can endure it. A little impatience will ruin a big plan." In the sterile operating room, Akazuka has been disemboweled. Various organs are exposed. The liver, which should have been pink and blood red, is now pitch black. Fortunately, because of the previous seal, it is being wrapped in a stream of green chakra, and the blood flowing out of it will be filtered, and no toxins will flow out through the blood vessels. Watching the liver in front of them being repaired continuously, and then destroyed by toxins. Everyone present was surprised. This level of healing can only be achieved by elite medical ninjas at the level of chief physician. The amount of chakra they may not reach that of normal Jonin, but precise chakra control can definitely reach the level of a Jonin. In other words, if a ninja who can achieve this control effect chooses combat as the main attack direction, through the accumulation of time and the learning of ninjutsu, he can at least reach the level of a Jonin in ninjutsu. Even if other aspects are poor, he will be promoted to a special Jonin. Such a young child. Amazing talent. Puff. The door of the operating room was opened, and two figures, one big and one small, walked in. Puff. This time it was not the sound of the door opening, but from Tsunade's mouth wearing a mask. Smile. She actually smiled. I can't bear it. Kie clenched his fists again, dragging the surgical gown that was obviously not suitable for his figure and was several sizes too big to stand in the operating room. He always felt that everyone present was looking at a monkey. Xiaochun, get him a stool and let him stand on it, otherwise he can't see. Quote. Tsunade said with a suppressed smile. She had seen Akatsuka's situation, and she was absolutely sure that she could save him, but she was just waiting for Nanaya. The old eyes of Izawa Kotobuki beside him flashed. Is this child sure he wants to study medical ninja? Yes, this is his own wish. Then I still advise Tsunade-sama to accept this boy as a formal disciple as soon as possible. Yes, why? Tsunade retracted her gaze and looked at Izawa Kotobuki, an old man in the medical field, in confusion. It's not okay for others to accept him, only you can accept him. This is all I have to say. It's up to you whether you listen or not. Quote. Eyes Xiaodu sighed and said no more. But Kie on the side understood it, and then secretly remembered it in his heart. The old man on the other side was obviously giving Tsunade some advice, which was related to the implicit competition for talents between the combat department and the medical department of the Hokage faction. This was in front of the disciples of the third generation, and he was dismantling the third generation. The old man was doing his best for the medical system. If the words were made clearer, it would be a slap in the face of the third generation and start to offend people. The old man was obviously not that stupid. But the stupid woman's political sense was a bit poor, and she obviously didn't understand. Kia had a headache. Okay, Lord Xiaodu, I will think about it carefully. Kie, watch the operation carefully. I will take this opportunity today to tell you what medical ninjutsu is. Remember, medical skills come first, and ninjutsu comes later. Quote. The operation officially began. Tsunade changed her lazy temperament, and her whole body exuded seriousness and seriousness. At the same time, detected that a high-level medical instructor is teaching medical skills, opening the medical module. Simplifying. Detected that a high-level medical ninja is teaching medical ninjutsu, and the proficiency of related ninjutsu is increased. In the operating room, Tsunade was quickly using the chakra scalpel, hemostasis, healing, and palm magic to turn the sea upside down in Akatsuka's abdomen, while explaining to Kie the principles and precautions of relevant medical and ninjutsu. People who are serious, whether men or women, only care about the handwork and ignore many other factors. Tsunade is like this when she is serious. She only has the patient in her eyes and ignores Kie's medical foundation. In other words, she never thought that Kie could understand it from the bottom of her heart. He is just a little kid. As for taking the other party into the operating room, it is just because she is optimistic about the other party's ninjutsu talent and wants to take the opportunity to let Kie correctly understand medical work, similar to the behavior of visiting. Good seedlings need to be cultivated from childhood and from interest. In fact, it is true. Kie doesn't know what the legendary genius who can learn quickly is like, and he doesn't quite understand that kind of non-human creature. Anyway, for the medical professional knowledge mentioned by Tsunade, he seems to be listening to the Book of Heaven throughout the whole process. But he did not gain nothing. Healing skills proficiency plus 2-2. Palm immortal skills proficiency plus 3-6. Medical skills experience plus 1-2. Medical skills experience plus 2-1. Healing skills basic level 9, 4,999,774 5 millionths. Palm immortal skills advanced level 3. The author is too lazy to calculate the proficiency data to add words. Anyway, according to the simplified characteristics of ninjutsu, the basic skills gain a little proficiency, and the same skills will also increase a little, but the upgrade of advanced skills requires more proficiency than the upgrade of basic skills. Medical skills simplified 1. Read medical books, automatically memorize, and increase medical skills experience, watch surgery, increase practical experience, in deep sleep, all knowledge and memories will be fed back and instilled in mind-based feedback and form muscle memory. Dream virtual space. When entering deep sleep, consciousness will enter the memory imagination space deep in the brain. Please explore the specific function by yourself. Kie was delighted. It is said that double happiness comes. Now he has taken an extra, back door, compared to others. After the healing technique reaches the maximum level, medical ninjutsu can derive a series of advanced ninjutsu. The opening of medical skills also allows him to have multiple identities in multiple ways, not to mention that he has unlocked an extra virtual space. It's a pity that he has to wait until the evening to try it. Although it's just 3 small sub-items, it means a lot to him, and even affects the speed of his strength improvement and the rhythm of the layout. Let's not talk about that space. Although we don't know what the actual function is, it's better than one eye closed, one eye opened, and one night passed. After all, sleeping at night is the most painful for him. He always feels that he is wasting time, but he can't not sleep. One is that his body can't bear it, and the other is that his mental attributes can only be increased by sleeping. The biggest influence among the 3 items is the healing technique. This is related to his basic attribute assessment. Although he practiced faster than others, his upper limit was limited to the assessment points of those basic attributes. Ninjutsu 6 and Ninjutsu 7 are 2 different worlds. The former is the peak of Chunin, while the latter belongs to the world of Jonin. The assessment points are determined by the number of ninjutsu that Kie has mastered. As a civilian family, and limited by the system's collection of attributes, the only ninjutsu he could learn was the Great Fireball technique. It was more difficult to learn other ninjutsu than to enter the medical system. Although the influence of the family gradually decreased under the changes of the revolutionary and politician, second-generation Hokage Senju Tobarama, the ninjutsu was also passed on to the public so that the public could learn it. But more of it still remained in the hands of those families, and the civilians who obtained the ninjutsu also wanted to become the next family, and would not pass it on. Moreover, some families in Konoha would also take back those high-level ninjutsu that were passed on at a specific time. For example, Kia's situation. With both his parents dead and his own talent unknown, it would be better for them to take away his advanced ninjutsu with kindness, rather than leaving it behind to cause trouble or be sold by Kie. So after so many years of training, his ninjutsu has only just reached level 5. But with this medical ninjutsu, it's different. As a similar existence to the unmarked ninjutsu, healing techniques can quickly accumulate proficiency. With Tsunade, the experienced baby, his speed will soar. Use the number of medical ninjutsu to support the ninjutsu rating points, and when it reaches level 7, the upper ninjutsu limit will be opened, and then the attack ninjutsu can be fed back. The more he thinks about this, the more beautiful Kie becomes, and he doesn't know where his soul has flown. As for mixing experience, the system has indicated that you only need to watch, and Tsunade baby only needs to just listen. It's not shameful to get stuck in a system bug. But suddenly, Kie shuddered. Then he pulled his hair hard. What's so good about it? Unprinted ninjutsu. Is there anything more representative than the Rasengan? Even if I don't know how to use it. But I know the principle. To be on the safe side, why not just tell my little brother and let him develop it and teach it to me? Kie's inspiration flashed, and he instantly felt that medical ninjutsu was not so good. Okay, Kie is also a serious person. Once he gets caught up in his own thoughts, he doesn't care about external factors at all. Even when the proficiency on the in front of me attribute panel stopped increasing, he didn't react. It was not until he vaguely heard someone calling him that he felt the gaze like a thorn in his back. Tsunade, holding a black liver in her hand, called out to Nanaya, who looked dull and painful, and cursed herself for being careless. The other party was not one of those ninjas who had graduated for a year or two and had seen blood on missions. This bloody scene would not leave any psychological trauma on the other party, right? Nanaya, are you okay? Tsunade-sama, I'm fine, you continue, don't delay treatment. Nanaya finally recovered from his own imagination, but the feeling of being naked by someone made him look a little unnatural. I just finished watching the short video on the computer and was lost in fantasy. When I came to my senses, I found that the whole family was looking at me. That feeling, I know it all. This should be the first time you see the real human body structure, right? If you feel uncomfortable, just go out. I didn't think it through. Tsunade said worriedly. She felt that Nanaya was pretending to be strong. What a good kid. But Nanaya, who had regained his sanity, didn't think so. Especially after seeing that his healing surgery was almost at the maximum level. Woman. Although you have now retreated to the second, experience baby. But don't think of driving me away. If I want to leave, I will wait until I confirm the next home of my little brother. I am not the monkey who picks up sesame seeds and throws away watermelons. I want both. Fortunately, the teachers in school have talked about the structure of the human body, but they taught us how to disassemble it so that they die faster. Nanaya said realistically. Everyone's face was instantly awkward. Especially Tsunade. Her face was dark. We are saving people here, and you are talking about killing people. Don't you know that this is the most taboo in hospitals? Listen carefully. Look carefully. This is different from what you learned in school. As a combat ninja, you only need to know where the liver is, but as a medical ninja, you need to know the structure of every organ. Before Tsunade finished speaking, Nanaya pointed with her little hand and said directly. Right lobe, left lobe, inferior vena cava, portal vein, hepatic artery, gallbladder. Quote. In terms of the degree of familiarity with the fatal organs of the human body, Nanaya was a professional in his previous life. Nanaya didn't know that he had violated a taboo, but he also found that everyone's eyes were not right, and hurriedly added. Tsunade-sama, I just had some insights into your outstanding medical skills. I found, what I want to learn is to be like you, to be able to disassemble and then put it back intact. In the end, people can live better. This time it was Tsunade's turn to be smart. At first glance, this sentence sounded fine, but after careful consideration, it was wrong. Hey, Nanaya, all medical ninjutsu require medical support. No matter how talented you are, you need to learn from the basics. For example, if you don't understand the patient and the structure, you can't save him even if you know the palm fairy technique, because you may make the patient's heart proliferate, which will cost the patient's life. Learn it well. Izawa Kodo couldn't bear it anymore, sighed, and then gave Nanaya a painstaking admonition. Don't worry, Master Kodo. I will study hard, Nanai replied with a serious face. But it didn't help. The young Tsunade always felt that Nanaya was deliberately provoking before. It was in response to her previous response to teasing the other party in the office. Because if it was her, she would do this. Ninjutsu genius, right, who isn't? Kid, today I'm going to teach you a new technique. If you can learn it, I'll admit that you're a genius. I'll obey you from now on. If you can't learn it, you'll have to keep your tail. Be my apprentice. The technique of extracting fine tissue. B-level medical ninjutsu. A truly high-level ninjutsu. Tsunade explained the characteristics of the technique to Nanaya while absorbing the black liquid toxin from the black liver. Izawa Kotobuki was speechless for a while. If you use this technique, why do you need to open the abdomen? You took out the liver, you can just use the palm magic to force the poison out. For face. Hey, and there's more. You let a newly graduated genin learn high-level ninjutsu. Tsunade, you really do whatever it takes to win. Kie can't hear Izawa Kotobuki's inner voice. If he could, he would definitely ask a question. Whenever Tsunade is involved in gambling, how many times has she won? High-level medical ninjas are being taught medical ninjutsu, and are being collected. Homologous basic ninjutsu detected, healing proficiency increased. Healing technique basic upgraded, level 9 right pointing arrow level 10, related high-level ninjutsu are being derived. The technique of extracting small injuries has been covered, and the proficiency is being synchronized, currently at level 1. Ninjutsu rating. 6 Chunin Peak. As the prompt was issued, Kie was surprised to find out. Because he reached the peak of Chunin, not only his medical ninjutsu was expanded. At the same time, the fire escape was also derived. Healing technique basic 10th level. Similar derivatives. Medical ninjutsu side. Chakra scalpel C level, chaotic body rush B level, fine injury extraction technique B level, yin healing destruction B level. Similar derivatives. Fire escape ninjutsu side. Fire dragon flame bomb B level, great dragon fire technique B level, great fire extinguishment B level, great fire extinction B level. Kie never thought that the fire escape could be triggered so early. But after thinking about it, he knew that he was wrong. Level 1 means that it is just a beginner's mastery, the power and proficiency have not yet been improved, and it cannot form an immediate combat force. By the time he can use it skillfully, because of the improvement of his level, his ninjutsu rating will probably be upgraded to 7. In other words, this is a process from quantitative change to qualitative change, and it is also a reasonable assessment of the mastery of ninjutsu. Although Kie was excited that he had one more capital to survive in the ninja world, he was not as excited as before, but looked at Tsunade, who was performing the technique, seriously. To be honest, Tsunade is worthy of the title of medical saint in the ninja world, and her medical skills and the use of medical ninjutsu are absolutely second to none. Although Kie can't understand medical skills to save people, looking at the admiring eyes of the little fans around him, and the envious eyes of Izawa Shoudu, Kie understands how powerful his experienced baby is. Unfortunately, Kie's ambition is not here. His most direct goal is still to obtain blood to expand his chakra attributes and bloodline. Because in the future, he will need to use his powerful strength to protect himself and face those powerful enemies, instead of using medical ninjutsu to treat teammates in the rear. Everyone has to position himself. Kie doesn't think that he can become an omnipotent person just because he has a plug-in. He is a human, not a god, and his energy and time must always be placed in the most important direction. Let those who are good at it do what they are not good at or have no time to take care of. He only needs to establish common goals and common interests to unite everyone together. Tsunade, who was labeled as the top medical leader of the team by Kie after experienced baby, said to Kie with a arrogant face, "Little ghost, have you learned it?" Tsunade felt that it was not good to hit the child like this, so she softened her tone and said, "It doesn't matter if you haven't learned it. Follow me and learn well. You will learn it one day." But to the ears of adults like Kie, it always feels a bit harsh. "Lord Kodo, I'll trouble you with the abdominal surgery. I'll take this kid out to tell him something." Tsunade looked at the liver in Akatsuka's abdominal cavity that had regained its blood color and nodded contentedly. Only at this time can she get the pleasure from the deepest part of her heart. "Okay, Lord Tsunade. By the way, I hope you can consider my suggestion more." "Yeah." Looking at the backs of the two figures, one big and one small, leaving eyes, Kodo finally couldn't help but speak up again. But Tsunade, who had left, didn't take the matter to heart at all. Because she felt that she had no time to teach her disciples, and more importantly, she had never accepted any disciples. After returning from the battle in the Rain Country, she became more and more disgusted with war, so she devoted herself to the medical field. Later, the Fire Country daimyo ordered to collect intelligence on the Wind Country. The Sand Village clashed with Konoha. Chiyo's ninja poison caused great damage to Konoha ninjas, and she was busy with scientific research on ninja poison, confronting Chiyo tit for tat. It was also during this process that she realized the importance of medical development, so she devoted herself to the construction of the medical system. "Little boy, give me the note." Kie didn't react. "Welcome to join the medical system. The hospital will be your home in the future." Tsunade took off her mask and smiled like a child. In the locker room, Kie is not a child, so easy to be fooled. He looked at Tsunade with some suspicion, without any movement, and the note was actually stuck on his chest, which is the most important position for humans to protect instinctively besides the head. When he went to change his clothes, he kept a hand, fearing that the note would be replaced by some people, which was his proof of hanging orders. "It was just because my little brother followed Jiraiya to do tasks these 2 days, and there was no tool chef at home, and it was a waste of time for him to cook by himself. And how good is the hospital cafeteria, which provides food on time and on time. Yingfan, the small cooking is delicious and very nutritious. Forget it if you didn't take it. Remember that sister Xiaochun just now. Go find her next time you come to the operating room. In the future, you will have your own surgical gown." Tsunade smiled more innocently. This made Kie doubt his own judgment. He made too many enemies in his previous life, so he had to be cautious with everyone who approached him. Eventually, he was alone against the world and went to destruction. Coming back to life, especially in a high-risk world like the ninja world, he had to think about the importance of the team. After a little hesitation, Kie pulled open his surgical gown, revealing his smooth and white chest, tore off the note from it, and then handed it to Tsunade. Tsunade was surprised, but the micro-expression in it made Kie feel a little wrong. And when Tsunade really took the note, she suddenly put her hands on her waist and laughed up to the sky. "Little ghost, you've been fooled, playing tricks with your sister. You're still a little naive." Kie's face darkened instantly. "But I'm not as bad as you." The clothes will probably be ready in 2 days. Let me tell you something. The hospital will give you a subsidy every month, but since I paid for your expenses these days, you will pay me back first. If you need it, come to me and I'll lend it to you first. Kie didn't doubt this at all. Don't underestimate a gambler's obsession with money. I was actually tricked by the other party. Fortunately, I kept a trick. Tsunade-sama, I admit defeat. Just admit defeat. Tsunade proudly stroked Kia's head. Don't say it, although it felt prickly, I felt unexpectedly comfortable. Can you be responsible for your words and deeds and promises? Kie said, biting his back teeth. Tsunade's face suddenly became serious after hearing this. It must be. Okay. Kia's face turned cold. Then he burst out his chakra and gradually condensed it in his hands. Time passed by little by little. Tsunade went from doubt to surprise, and then to shock. Whoosh! In Chenny's palm full of chakra, a short tentacle suddenly grew and swayed. Fine extraction technique. Although the chakra is still unstable and extremely unfamiliar. But from the essence of the fluctuation, the other party really learned it. Tsunade felt that her worldview had suffered a serious impact. Tsunade-sama, I hope you remember what you said. If I learn it, I will do everything for you. Kie turned around and left without paying attention to Tsunade, who was in shock. Looking at the departing back, Tsunade slowly withdrew her hand. Suddenly, she smiled. One thing is another. I really deducted the money. Don't secretly put it on my account. If you don't have money to eat, come to my house. Food and accommodation are provided. Tsunade knew in her heart that the promise was an opportunity for Kie to make unconditional demands, and he would not simply use it for trivial matters. Kie's face was dark and he quickened his pace. Go to your house with food and accommodation. I'm afraid you're going to be a chef. This is human nature. No matter which world it is, it's the same. It's not suitable to stay here for a long time. Go quickly. Go to find my little brother. The other party should be back from the mission today. Let him cook and ask about the Rasengan from the side. Ps. In order to improve the viewing comfort, the introduction of ninjutsu is placed at the end. Those who don't want to read it can skip it. Chakra scalpel, sea level, gather chakra in your hand. You can cut in the target body without external injuries and can extend it at will. Ranshin Chong, B level, convert chakra into electrons, interfere with the brain's transmission of radio waves to the body, and make the recipient unable to control the body normally. Fine injury extraction technique B level, a type of medical ninjutsu that uses chakra to remove and transplant toxins or organs in the target's body. Yin healing and destroying B level, before being attacked, correctly judge the location of the attack and quickly concentrate a certain amount of chakra at that location. After being hit, the wound will automatically recover. Fire Dragon Flame Bomb B level, use strong control to spit out 3 fire dragons from the mouth, attack the enemy from the left, middle, and right directions, and contain certain changes in form and nature. How Long Fire Technique B level, spits out a huge fire dragon from the mouth to attack the enemy, containing extreme changes in mentality, and uses strong control to control the attack direction within a certain range. How Huo Extinguish B level, chakra gathers behind the throat, spits out a large area of sea-like flames to the front, and conducts a large-scale coverage attack. Great Fire Extinction B rank, chakra gathers behind the throat, and spits out a fireball that looks like a falling meteorite. The power is more concentrated, and after the fireball explodes, it can spread flames in all directions, containing extreme changes in properties. After changing his clothes, Kie did not stay in the hospital, but ran home in a new, running, posture. On the way back, he considered whether to go to a secret place first to experiment with his newly acquired ninjutsu. That was the high-level attack ninjutsu he had been thinking about. But when he met the Konoha guard team formed by the Uchiha clan from time to time, he gave up this idea. The village is now in a state of war preparedness. No matter who it is, you need a certificate to enter and exit, and the village is also afraid of the existence of infiltrators, so patrols have been strengthened in various places. If he goes to experiment with ninjutsu now, it is estimated that the ninjutsu fluctuations have just been emitted, and the next moment, the Anbu, the root, and the guard will stand by him and invite him to have tea. Since he can't experiment, Kie can only focus on cultivation, and then try his luck to see when his little brother can come back. Pushing open the gate of his own courtyard, Kie was happy at first, and then frowned slightly. The little yellow-haired radish was on the wooden platform under the eaves, hugging his knees with his hands, pressing his face tightly against his knees, and curling up into a ball. His clothes were a little torn. Feeling the low pressure, Kie controlled his expression, walked to his side and sat down, and slowly asked, "When did you come back?" "In the early morning." Minato slowly raised his head and glanced at Kie, his eyes dim, and then lowered his head again. "You are in a low mood, and obviously have no desire to communicate. What happened?" Single quote. Everyone needs to vent. The more cheerful and optimistic people are, the more scars they hide in their hearts. Once they suffer injury beyond the upper limit, they will be devastated, and even worse, they will go to extremes. Kie did not tease the other party as usual, but tentatively asked, "What's going on?" After a long silence, Minato suddenly sighed. Sea-level mission. Murder. Kie frowned slightly and looked up and down at Minato again, but his experience in the previous life made him immediately deny this judgment. Whether it was the traces or the eyes, there was no such blood. "We were hired by villagers from other places to defend and encircle the bandits the day before yesterday, but, when we arrived, the village had been razed to the ground." At this point, Minato fell into memories, and the whole person became more and more lost, but his hands were tightly clasped. "We followed the traces to track. But on the way, the sand ninja ambushed us. That was a group of Jonin teams, and I, Akamichi Dodo, and Inazuka-e couldn't do anything. Jiraiya-sama couldn't even fight back to protect us. In the end, we could only watch them retreat." Minato's words were full of anger. But at the end, the whole person suddenly relaxed, and then lay on his back on the wooden platform. Kie saw clearly that a drop of liquid dripped from the corner of Minato's eyes. "Master Jiraiya didn't say it, but I know that it was definitely those sand ninjas who killed the villagers. They disguised themselves as bandits and plundered everywhere, forcing those villagers to seek help from Konoha. And their target was the Konoha ninjas who came to support them. Chenny, I can't do anything. Instead, I am a burden." Chenny didn't comfort him, let alone say any big truths, and remained silent. And the next moment, Kie stared at Minato's figure. His eyes became colder and colder, it was an extreme cold. And at this moment, Minato seemed to be stabbed by something. The exposed hairs stood up. "Get up. Defend." His eyes were directly locked on Kie, who was sitting next to him. "Kie." At this time, Minato had no time to care about the confusion in his brain. The instinct of survival overwhelmed everything. Because he could feel that his life was being threatened. He had seen Kie's eyes not long ago. Those sand ninjas. And Master Jiraiya. Cold sweat dripped down Minato's temples. Suddenly, Nanaya raised his shoulder very slightly. And it was this slight movement that instantly made Minato's tense nerves break. Swoosh. Minato instantly took out a kunai from his ninja tool bag. Stabbed at Nanaya at a speed beyond his previous limit. Puff. Blood flowers scattered beautifully. Well, this is the dubbing and script scene in Nanaya's mind. According to the plot design in his mind, it is best to get injured at this time, but he really has no tendency to self-abuse. Medical ninjutsu. It hurts to get injured. So the real situation is that Minato's handsome face is against the wooden platform where the two of them are sitting, and his arms are controlled by Nanaya's anti-joint. Don't you always say that you can't do anything? But in fact, you have already done it. Kie's tone and eyes finally returned to normal. The struggling Minato froze instantly after hearing this. What? Meaning? Alive? You are still alive, this is what you do. Those villagers who have died are the ones who can't do anything. Kie explained calmly. Little carrot, remember, as long as you are alive, you can do anything. As long as there is a future, there is nothing you dare not think about. Kie let go of the other's hands. Minato muttered to himself, then looked back at Kie. And Kie had already put on a simple smile. Well, it was a bit like the simple smile that Tsunade had lied to him before. No, to be precise, it should be carved out of the same mold. Looking at Minato's obsessed look, Kie secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Heartache, it is not something that can be cured by a few words or a script. What he did was just to interrupt Minato's current state, and then let time slowly wash it away, waiting for the day when Minato grows up to be able to withstand it. Sometimes, after some injuries, you get through them, and when you look back, it's just like that. This little brother, it's over. Don't even think about getting out of his hands in this life. Little carrot, in today's world, it's not enough to have goals and ideals, the most important thing is to have strength. And there are many sources of strength, but unfortunately, you and I don't have it, so we can only rely on ourselves in the end. Find a way to strengthen our own strength. Kie looked back to the west, ready to find the sunset, so as to choose a good angle, but suddenly remembered that it was not yet noon. The sun was still hanging in the east, blocked by the eaves. It's all because the little brother usually looked for me in the afternoon. Fortunately, Minato was very sensible and didn't let Kie be embarrassed. But I can't even beat you. Quote. Kie felt insulted. I understand what you said. On the day we joined the team to grab the bell, Tangdong and Yi had their own family secrets or high-level ninjutsu. I was the only one who used the three-body technique and physical technique to fight. Afterwards, teacher Jiraiya also taught me some ninjutsu, but I don't seem to have any talent for the rest except the instant body technique. Everyone has his advantages. Your advantages are obvious, as can be seen from the attack just now. Kie said seriously. Your nerve reaction is far beyond that of ordinary people. You are obviously a ninja with speed. You should play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. In terms of speed, you can go to Master Jiraiya. I believe that with his responsible attitude, he will definitely find a way for you to play to your strengths. In the direction of attack, as a speed ninja who can kill with one blow, the attack of the seal ninjutsu will weaken your advantage to a certain extent, but without using ninjutsu, relying only on ninja tools, sometimes the damage is not enough, but it will put you in danger. With Kie's chain of traps, Minato had already hidden the previous shadow deep in his heart and began to think along. But before Minato could figure out what to do, he saw Nanaya approaching with a green chakra on his hand. Minato was stunned at first, then overjoyed. Nanaya also laughed, but the next moment, his face froze. Nana, you actually know healing techniques. So amazing. And then, what? Are you a water radish? Everyone else is solid, why are you filled with water? What kind of ninjutsu is this? Medical ninjutsu. Oh, do you want me to practice chakra scalpel? But that technique is no different from ninja tools with chakra attached, right? Nanaya couldn't help it. Unprinted ninjutsu. It's an unprinted ninjutsu. Kie proved with facts that he was really not suitable to be a teacher. When the sun was high in the sky, he still hadn't explained his idea of the chakra group of the unprinted ninjutsu. And Minato was also confused. What? Compression, rotation, turbulence, layered fusion, he understood the individual terms, but Kie's explanation made him more confused. In the end, there was no choice, and the exasperated Kie could only use roughness. Civil, doesn't work, let's use martial. Kie rummaged through the boxes and cabinets, and finally found the balloons that the two of them gave to Kushina for her birthday last year from the corner of Gala. After filling them with water, he started to demonstrate directly. Only then did Minato understand what Kie wanted to say. Practice is the only criterion for testing truth. It is also the time to expose the paper tiger. During the demonstration, Kie kept a dark face, while Minato was forcing a smile. Because what Kie said and what he did were completely different. Compression and rotation are simple. With Kie's spiritual attributes, he can directly compress the chakra into the balloon, and then rotate it continuously. But the problem lies here. His control is too stable. If he says clockwise, it is clockwise, and then he wants to go counterclockwise, and it instantly becomes counterclockwise again. A pure chakra ball. As we all know, the power of the Rasengan lies in chaos, or disordered hedging, and then it forms a balanced whole. Simply put, from a macroscopic point of view, it is a whole chakra ball, and from a microscopic point of view, the rotation direction of its internal chakra is disordered, but after being softened together, it can form a unique balance. Although Kie understands what is going on, he just can't chaos. Or, his chaos is very orderly. Just like a computer program. Every trace of controllable chakra is under Kie's control, rotating according to a certain specific trajectory. Although it seems to be a mess, it is all under his control. This is his chaos, not the chaos of the natural chakra fluid itself. The result is that artificial chaos will always have loopholes, and eventually lose balance, and the chakra ball collapses instantly. Sure enough, ordinary people are ordinary people, and he is still the dumbest one among them. Some things are clearly known, but the brain and hands can't do them. Nanaya is a self-aware person. After seeing that Minato understood the most basic principles, he directly gave up his own research and development and gave the remaining, precious, balloons to the other party. Sometimes, it is destined, or it can be said that professionals do professional things. Minato only used a water ball to achieve that kind of natural chaos. It's just that because of the quality and quantity of chakra, the ball itself cannot form stability. Nanaya, a good student who is not ashamed to ask questions, hurried to ask Minato for the trick. Then it was Nanaya's turn to be confused. Because in Minato's explanation, there are always two sentences. Feeling. Feeling is very important. It's that feeling. This is very simple, there is no need to understand, it is just like this. This makes Kie seem to have returned to the miserable student days when he was crushed by the academic bully, the era when there was still a distinction between liberal arts and science. Fortunately, Kie's greatest advantage is that he is not afraid of hardship. If it doesn't work once, then twice, if it doesn't work twice, then 10 times. Finally, Kie felt the inexplicable chaos. It was also at this time. Kie harvested his fruit. Open attributellus and unmarked basic ninjutsu. Unnamed difficulty, a level, teaching progress. Teacher. Namikaze Minato. This ninjutsu is created by Namikaze Minato. After the ninjutsu is successfully developed and the teaching is completed, the system will officially include it and integrate it into the simplified system. Nothing is in vain. All the hardship is not in vain. Kie rubbed his still dizzy head. Little carrot, how about we give this technique a name first? Well, this is simple. Kie suddenly felt a chill after hearing this. Wait, well, what's wrong, Kie? I just got an idea. How about calling it Rasengan? What do you think of Rasengan? Kie wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and interrupted. There is an unwritten world rule in the ninja world. No matter whether you are sneak attacking or not, at least you must shout out the name of the ninjutsu when you hit someone. And Scorching Release Light Wheel Gale Black Arrow 0. Flying Thunder God Space Time Gale Flash Combo 0. Think about the masterpiece of his little brother. Kie really can't shout it out. It's really not what shame is at work. Really. It's because the name is too long, and he's afraid that he'll be killed by the enemy before he finishes shouting it. The truth that villains die because they talk too much applies to everyone. This name is not cool at all. This is the first ninjutsu that our two brothers have jointly developed. It's also a non-marked attack ninjutsu. How can such a memorable ninjutsu be called such an ordinary name? Minato looked at Nanaya seriously. Nanaya was touched and a little helpless, but he really didn't want to die. The brain worked quickly. Got it. Nanaya hugged the little brother's shoulders. Look, this good name should be used on the most powerful ninjutsu, right? The little brother nodded in approval. The ninjutsu we developed is just a basic ninjutsu without any changes in form or nature. If you make it too nice, how should you name it when you develop a more powerful derivative technique? Upon hearing this, Minato was instantly unwilling. I will definitely get better and better results. Good brother, of course I believe in you. But think about it, there will always be a day when you can't do research and development. You pass it on to your son, or daughter. Or even grandchildren. What if they also develop new techniques, but because the name you gave is too good, they can't think of a better name? Minato was thoughtful. Nanaya seized the opportunity to continue fooling. As a father and grandfather, you shouldn't think about your descendants. Let them have some room to play. Minato nodded unconsciously. Suddenly, Nanaya raised his eyebrows. Then the corners of his mouth hooked. The other hand unconsciously pulled a small flat head. By the way, have you thought about the names of your future sons and daughters? Hearing this topic, Minato's attention was instantly diverted. He, according to what you said, when I met Kushina for the first time, I had already thought of the names of our future children. For boys. Bang, the half-open courtyard door shattered instantly. Hey, red-haired girl, you're here. At the gate, Kushina stood there with a bloody face. Seeing that the two looked over, she turned around and ran away. At noon, the three ninjas gathered at Tsunade's house with a solemn face to discuss the invasion of the village by the Sand Ninja. Only then did she know that Minato's first mission had failed. From a friend's perspective, she wanted to care about her friend, so she went to Minato's house, but didn't see anyone, and then found this place, but she didn't expect that she had just arrived at the door. I heard Minato talking about something about the child. Kushina, listen to my explanation. Nanai breathed a sigh of relief. Jiraiya hasn't written a book yet, so Naruto's name can't be said casually. As for the subsequent name of the Rasengan, anyway, he just uses it for training, and there shouldn't be many opportunities to use it. It's just pitiful for Naruto. Will Minato and Kushina die? What the hell are you thinking? Anyone who dares to touch my flat-headed brother. Even if he dies, I will also bring you back to life and beat you up again. Naruto, don't blame me. I have no other choice. Kie thought of Minato's naming ability and got an idea again. He quickly took out a spare door panel to repair the courtyard door, and then went to practice. Although the development of this no-mark ninjutsu has not been completely successful, it has allowed him to discover a new bug. Fire escape requires seals in the throat, but healing is a no-mark ninjutsu, which is more about controlling chakra, so he can do two things at the same time. It's like releasing ninjutsu while letting the soles of his feet absorb the ground. He has tried it, and he can use seals on his hands to release fire escape, and use his toenails to release healing. It's a pity that he can only do two things at the same time, otherwise he would make all 10 toenails shine. The reason for doing this is very simple. It's not known when the Rasengan will be in place for a while. Therefore, using medical ninjutsu to support the upper limit of ninjutsu evaluation is the most cost-effective at present. Kie adjusted his own physical condition while adjusting the new training method. After all, it was the first time to enter the dream virtual space at night, and no one knew what was going on. Kie, who had worked hard all day, tossed and turned on the bed. If it were normal, he would fall asleep as soon as he touched the bed. But tonight, he kept thinking about the virtual space of dreams. He wanted to sleep, but he was getting more and more awake. Finally, there was no other way. Kie raised his right hand with a sneer on his face, which was full of green chakra, and put it directly to his forehead. This is called learning and applying. I don't know how much time has passed. Kie opened his eyes dazedly as if he got up in the morning in the past. A milky white soft light came into his eyes. The next moment, Kie woke up and realized that this was the virtual space of dreams. Looking around, he did not act rashly. This is an endless and vast white space. And he seemed to be floating in the air, but the strange thing was that there was no material under his feet, but he felt down to earth. At the same time, this space gave him a sense of gravity, which at least allowed him to relatively clearly know the spatial direction. Suddenly, 2 lines of words appeared not far from Kie. Experience simplification has been converted into physical teaching. Medical experience 888, conversion time 1 hour and 47 minutes, 500 experience in 1 hour. Buzz. The white space trembled violently, and walls suddenly rose up around it. Then, strands of silk threads appeared out of thin air, gradually converging and overlapping in space. After a while, a scene familiar to Kie was established. To be precise, it was a moment in Kie's memory that was outlined. It was during the day, just before Tsunade's surgery. The layout around the operating room, Tsunade, Izawa Kotobuki and others who were instantly fixed around the operating table, and even Akatsuka who had been opened on the operating table. Only Nanaya was missing. Nanaya's brain began to think quickly, and soon he had an epiphany. This was his memory. There was not a single difference. As for why Nanaya was not there, memory is 5 senses perception memory, and it is normal not to see yourself. Teaching begins. The scene experienced during the day reappeared. Tsunade began to talk about medical knowledge and related medical ninjutsu again. But it was different from the state of listening to the heavenly book during the day. At this moment, Nanaya could actually understand the essence of medical skills that Tsunade talked about. To be precise, he knew what to do and how to do it, just like replicating it, but because he lacked basic medical knowledge, he still didn't know why he did it this way. The operation didn't take long, only more than 20 minutes, and the screen ended at the last moment of gaining medical experience. When Kie thought it was over, the whole space fluctuated again. Back to the original state. But the difference is that he is no longer a free man, but replaced Tsunade. Then the body moved uncontrollably. Muscle memory is being transformed. More than 20 minutes passed. The objects in the space slowly degenerated into lines, and then disappeared. Experience transformation countdown. 1 hour and 02 minutes, after the countdown ends, the space is closed. Kie didn't care about the countdown at all, but was still in shock. He was not shocked by the so-called imparting of medical experience, nor the formation of muscle memory. After all, he is a selfish and profit-seeking person. Although it's good to get something for free, medical skills have never been his goal. So what really shocked him was other discoveries. Healing proficiency plus 2-2. Palm immortal proficiency plus 3-6. That's right, whether watching it again or trying it, personally, except that the medical experience did not increase again, both times increased the proficiency of the same amount of ninjutsu in the memory during the day. This is consistent with Kie's recent goal. This space is obviously to reproduce the process of gaining experience through his memory, and if the professor's narration is mixed with ninjutsu teaching, it will also play a role in increasing proficiency. And 2 resets, that's double. Kie is the kind of person who wants to get more after getting a bargain, so he quickly studied the space in front of him. If he refreshes the memory a few more times, the proficiency. And he is not only considering these. Soon, Kie thoroughly studied the so-called virtual dream space in front of him. To put it bluntly, in this space, he is a god based on his memory. He can create any substance that exists in the memory, and even control time to form a memory replay, as long as his memory is clear enough and the data is accurate enough. But reality is also cruel. When he reconstructed the scene of the previous operating room based on his memory, although he could still experience it again, he did not gain any proficiency. But this did not discourage Kie. He still had too much to test and do. If you want to find bugs, you have to keep studying and experimenting. For example, the laboratory and the operating table quickly faded, and only Tsunade was left. After a while, Tsunade's clothes began to fade. Finally, a holy light mosaic was revealed. Kie was not disappointed at all, because he had no relevant memories. He just wanted to test the intelligence of the space construction, really. Kie's eyes dimmed for a while, and suddenly brightened. His memory is not limited to this life. There are also accurate data from the previous life. The human body began to gradually change. Various people of all shapes and sizes appeared, including men, women, young and old. There was nothing on their bodies, because Kie knew them too well, knowing every inch of them. Everyone had gunshot wounds or knife marks of varying sizes on their bodies, and there were also models with their abdomens opened, similar to Akazuka. These were his unique cadaver teachers back then. A small dark room facing the wall, please enter voluntarily. Looking at the familiar, old friends in front of him, Kie was excited. After crossing over, the thing he was most worried about was them. But thinking of this, Kie's eyes darkened. The past was like a passing cloud. He had crossed over now, and his last life had become a bubble, so he didn't think about it. He couldn't be obsessed with the achievements of the past, but should focus on the crisis of the present. Kie's eyes were firm again. The teachers in front of him began to transform again, gradually forming small leaks, which were Kie's classmates in the ninja school. Little brother, red-haired girl, and Akazuka were among them. Then, everyone suddenly attacked him. They all used their most powerful attacking skills. Some used flying ninja tools, some used ninjutsu, and some used Konoha taijutsu. And Minato used the stab that exceeded his limit. Nanaya did not resist, but allowed the attack. Soon, everyone disappeared again. Nanaya, who was covered in wounds, recovered all his injuries the next moment, but he shook his head slightly in disappointment. It seemed to be an intelligent battle, but the behavior of all the characters was reproduced according to his memory, including his injuries and perception. For example, Minato's stab did not cause any harm to him, because there was no relevant data in his memory. It does not have the function of actual combat drills, but it is more than enough as a sparring partner, which is much better than the house-like training of those children in school. But now these little ghosts. It seems that some relevant data of powerful ninjas are needed. Kie was secretly calculating. He deeply understood that actual combat and training were two different things. He had not really entered the battlefield of the ninja world, purely because he was not strong enough and was a little afraid of death. After all, actual combat was the most likely to have accidents. But now it was different. He could at least use this space to get in touch with the rhythm of the high-end battlefield in advance, especially the fighting methods of those senior ninjas and the release of ninjutsu and secret techniques. Hiss, ninjutsu, and so on. Kia's eyes flashed, and his brain circuit suddenly took a sharp turn. Before, he always thought about testing the created characters, but he didn't test him as a free body. They can release ninjutsu with memory, so what about him? Kie started running directly according to the training method during the day. Healing proficiency +1, related derivative ninjutsu proficiency +1. Fireball proficiency +1, related derivative ninjutsu proficiency +1. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Kie was shocked, because except for the training related to the assessment of physical fitness attributes, all the training of ninjutsu proficiency is still valid. And because it is a dream, even if the throat is uncomfortable, it can be restored in the next moment. This greatly increases his efficiency. The only thing that disappointed him was that those high-level ninjutsu still couldn't be released. Time passed quickly, and the countdown of the space use for experience conversion came to the end. Kie is now looking forward to the hospital trip tomorrow. This person is too realistic. Who said that the ordinary Konoha hospital can give so many benefits? He really didn't expect that the choice that was just to obtain blood and chakra attributes at the beginning actually brought him so many surprises. Sure enough, Tsunade baby has the most. Although the degree shown now has not reached the upper limit of the future. But in the process of gaining experience, the other party can also give proficiency. This mutual reinforcement after completion, this least efficient time period at night is likely to reach a new height. Because he feels that he has discovered a new bug. What if the time of the virtual space of dreams is inconsistent with the real time of the outside world? What if the time he spends converting his daily experience exceeds the time of deep sleep? Nanaya has already started thinking about how to make the most of Tsunade baby tomorrow. Then let's test whether this bug exists. The long-term, biological alarm clock made Kie slowly wake up. And the moment he woke up, Kie instantly recalled everything that happened in the virtual space of the dream. It seemed that it was only a moment apart. Turning his head to look at the alarm clock on the bedside table, the time was exactly fixed at 6 o'clock in the morning, and his acquisition of spiritual attribute experience showed that he had been sleeping for more than 5 hours, almost the same as before. Full of energy, physical condition is the same as before, and when he tried to simulate the surgery without physical objects in his memory, he was as skilled as if he had been hammered 1,000 times. He really formed muscle memory. Gu. Kie covered his stomach and frowned slightly. I was too lazy to cook last night, and I was also afraid that after entering the so-called space, I would experience some bloody real-time battles, and a full stomach would bring a certain reduction in combat power, so he just ate some fast food and water. Action. There are too many things to do today. After having breakfast in the hospital cafeteria, Uemura Tano went to the emergency room to prepare for work with a smug look on his face. The acquaintances coming and going all greeted him politely. This was a treatment he had never experienced as a nobody in the hospital. He knew in his heart that there was only one reason, that a genius had emerged in his department. A genius who was famous throughout the hospital yesterday. 10 years old, he already knew healing skills. Although he was not as good as the top geniuses recorded in Konoha, in this war-torn era, he was at least a living genius. Inoue, you're here so early. Before Uemura Tano entered the door of the emergency room, he saw Okawa Inoue standing at the door a little embarrassed. Teacher, you're here. Okawa Inoue turned around and replied loudly, but when he heard the noise in the emergency room, his face was a little embarrassed. It's almost time to hand over your shift, why don't you go in? What's going on? Uemura Tieni looked suspicious. When he walked to the door and saw the scene in the emergency room, his face froze. In the emergency room, except for the night doctors waiting to hand over their shifts, none of the nurses who were supposed to have finished their shifts left, and they were now surrounding a desk. Come on, Kie, little brother, open your mouth, this is squid yaki, it's delicious. Ah, thank you, Sister Shaosha. Kie smiled shyly, and his pale face turned slightly red. In front of him, there were several lunch boxes, each belonging to a few nurses. You, next time you're hungry, tell the sisters, don't keep eating. Seeing your stomach growling before, people who don't know would think you have a frog in your stomach. I know, Sister Chuan, you are so nice to me. If you need my help in the future, be sure to call me. Kie said with a cute and serious face. Several nurses looked at each other, and the oldest mature female head nurse winked at the sisters. Look at me, wait for my good news. Single quote. Xiao Kie, how are you going to solve dinner? Well, I don't know yet. There is still some old rice at home, which can be made into rice balls, so the sisters don't have to worry. I was afraid of being late this time, so I came out early. Kie smiled cheerfully. How can that be? You are growing up now. The sisters will come to take you to dinner in the evening. The head nurse frowned slightly and accused with some worry. How can I be embarrassed? This breakfast has cost the sisters so much. Kie quickly refused. Just help the sisters more like before. Don't feel burdened, just treat it as hard work fee. You see, everyone has to spend money to see a doctor and buy medicine, which is more than what you spend. Hearing this, Uemura Tianyi, who was originally confused, frowned. Did this kid treat people? Healing skills and medical skills are two different things. Although he had some doubts in his heart, Uemura Tianyi, who knew how to behave and do things, did not ask directly but coughed dryly. Seeing that he attracted the attention of two colleagues in the room, he quickly winked and called out. What's going on inside? Why is it related to seeing a doctor? Uemura Tianyi asked in a low voice. Don't mention it. When I took over last night, I heard them say that this kid is a genius. I was skeptical, but now I am really convinced. The two people who came out showed an expression that was hard to describe at the same time. Hurry up and tell me. This healing skill is different from medical skills. Don't worry, this kid didn't treat other people. You know the black mark on Xiaochuan's forearm? Yes, it was the year before last when he was trying to save someone and accidentally got cut while pushing a cart. But because he has a scar-prone constitution, he left a scar, right? Uemura Tianyi looked depressed. This had nothing to do with him. Does the question have anything to do with it? You may not believe it, but it has been almost healed by that little ghost. One of them said with a mysterious look on his face, as if he had cured it. What? Cell activation. Is it the palm fairy technique? Uemura Tianyi's eyes almost popped out. I don't know what's going on. I haven't even practiced the healing technique yet, but from the fluctuation, it is undoubtedly the healing technique. Hiss. Uemura Tianyi took a breath of cold air. The rest are simple, those with acne marks on their faces, or those with dull skin color, didn't you notice? The crow's feet of our head nurse, adult, have faded a lot. Hiss, hiccup, Xiao Kie, then we have a deal, we will come to see you before dinner. The head nurse, big sister, took a few little sisters with their lunch boxes, turned around and talked, and walked out. Uemura Tano, who was constantly burping, noticed that the faces of several nurses had been corrected a lot. Agawa also exposed his arms instead of letting down his long sleeves to cover them, and the long scar on them was obviously much lighter. What caught Uemura Tano's attention the most was the corners of the nurse's eyes. Not only the crow's feet were much lighter, but also slightly upturned. He couldn't help but think of his impulsiveness when he first saw the other's charming eyes when he was still young 8 years ago. Tano-sama, Tsunade-sama has something to ask me, I'll be back after I'm done. Seeing the ladies walking away, Nanaya, who had been following them to the door, said to Uemura Tano in a proper manner. Burp. Oh, okay, go ahead, burp. In Tsunade's office. When did you learn the palm fairy technique? Tsunade looked at Nanaya, who was sitting on the sofa beside the desk, calmly. But the doubts in her eyes revealed her curious heart. The miraculous deeds of the kid opposite had spread among the nurses early in the morning. Some news can be passed on in just one meal. Kie sat there seriously. Not yet, but through your teaching yesterday, I have a deeper understanding of cell activation. You said you can't, then even if you can't, how did you think of using cell activation for beauty? Inspiration comes from your childlike face that still looks young after decades. I dare to think about it, but I dare not say it. Because I think you are right, medical skills are not ninjutsu, it is not a killing skill, but a saving skill. Every step, every judgment requires carefulness and caution. Therefore, after I repeatedly reviewed your teaching content last night, I found that I am still far from saving people, but I am still confident about the surface skin repair. Tsunade was a little confused when she heard this. The kid in front of her kept talking about what she taught yesterday. But she knew in her heart that what was taught during the operation yesterday was not knowledge that a person without any medical skills could learn. She really just said it yesterday, just to increase Kia's interest in medicine. Of course, she admitted that the other party was indeed talented in learning ninjutsu, otherwise she would not have owed him a request that could not be refused. But ninjutsu learning and medical learning cannot be confused. The starting point of the two is not at the same level at all. Did you understand what I said yesterday? I don't understand, but I know what to do. How about we make another bet? Okay. Tsunade was really curious. Half an hour later, after the first cognition was shattered yesterday, Tsunade began to doubt life again. In the following day, many doctors and nurses on the operating floor found that no matter which operating room Tsunade went to for surgery, she would bring a large bottle of water and the legendary, magical new kid. The kid will bring a medical book and a bench that fits the height of the operating table. During the operation, the kid, who was wearing a surgical gown that was obviously several sizes too big, would stand on the bench, holding the medical book, turning the pages, watching Tsunade perform the operation, and listening to the other party's extremely detailed explanation. Whether it was medical skills or ninjutsu, he kept talking. On average, he would drink half a bottle of water after one operation. Fortunately, the operation was completed at a very fast speed with the help of ninjutsu, otherwise they were afraid that Tsunade would drink too much on the stage and couldn't hold it back. The above was the request after Nanaya and Tsunade made the second successful bet, and it was also the beginning of Tsunade's third bet. She didn't believe that the other party could remember the whole day's teaching like the first day. And it was under the condition of distraction to memorize the basic medical book knowledge. She assigned us to recite the basic medical knowledge, and we need to recite it today, at least the first 10 chapters. The rest of the assessment will be conducted tomorrow. But when the day was over, in order to quickly go to the appointment to earn a meal, Kie recited all the medical books in his hand at a very fast speed without any mistakes, and Tsunade began to doubt the outcome of tomorrow. No matter how incredible that outcome was, it seemed that it was not impossible for Kie to happen. And Kie finally had a deep understanding of the simplified medical notes of reading medical books, automatic memory, and increasing medical experience. It really is, reading 10 lines at a glance, and remembering everything. It can also increase medical experience that is no less than that gained by watching Tsunade perform surgery. This made Kie, a bad student, finally experience the joy of being a top student. And after getting up the next day, Kie's eyes turned green. Because after forcing himself to enter a deep sleep, although he still only slept for 6 hours, the time he actually experienced in space was as long as 48 hours. Gained countless proficiency. Tsunade baby, here I come. In this way, for the next week, Tsunade was in a state of doubt about life, and according to Kie's bet, she had nowhere to tell and could only hold it in her heart. And in this week, Kie got the most painful harvest since he crossed over. His high-level ninjutsu finally rose to the standard, level 3 feat standard of standard combat power, and the palm fairy technique even reached level 5. He felt that the overall ninjutsu assessment would soon reach level 7. That is the standard of a Jonin. But can you believe it? He has never released a high-level ninjutsu that he has been thinking about. Can you believe it? As a turret, he has never fired a cannon. In order to make up for the pawn in his heart, Kie decided to attack those blood banks tomorrow. He didn't spend this week in vain, he has already figured out all the ins and outs. The moon was bright in the sky, and the villagers of Konoha village had already started to cook. In addition, the various departments of Konoha Hospital were going to eat and hand over their shifts. Intensive care unit. Kie, wearing a loose white coat, greeted the medical staff who were handing over their shifts. Shao Kie, come to see your patient again. The duty director of the intensive care unit teased Kie, while the medical staff who were being lectured by him covered their mouths and laughed. What are you laughing at? This is the medical ethics and conduct that a doctor should have. Preoperative examination and postoperative recovery are equally important. Only when the patient is discharged safely, the doctor can be considered to have fulfilled his basic obligations. And can he feel at ease? Look at Kie's sense of responsibility, and think about what you usually do. The duty director obviously saw the mocking look on everyone's face and was furious. Kie, tell them, what kind of thoughts make you run harder than others? The duty director said to Kie with a serious face. The old man is very bad. He is going to use me as a gun. But what can I do? The intensive care unit is their territory. Kie cursed inwardly, stroked his short flat head, and then solemnly repeated the conversation with the old man not long ago. I think being a doctor is not just a job or a profession. It requires putting patients at the most important position in your heart, and it must be placed at the most important position. This is the first condition to become a doctor. Of course, it's easy to say, but it's hard to do. I'm just working towards this direction. At the end, Kie smiled, shyly. Director, I'll go see the patients and record the data first. Otherwise, you guys will be busy soon and I'll just be in the way. Okay, go ahead. The duty director was friendly again, especially when he saw that the faces of the medical staff in front of him were more or less ashamed. He felt that he was more skilled. In order to make his subordinates grow up, he could only use Xiao Kie. When he came to the department for rotation in the future, he would take more care of him as compensation. Kie took 2 quick steps and quickly left this place of trouble. Soon, he came to an isolation ward. Puff! The automatic door was opened. Various instruments were piled in the room, and a sleeping woman was lying on the bed. In the dim room, Kie showed a gentle smile. Swish! Kie instantly opened his spacious white coat. On both sides of the lining, there are syringes, needles and blood bags. Then he pulled out a catheter needle from it and walked towards the young lady awkwardly. Absorption does not only refer to oral sucking and stomach absorption, vascular injection is also useful. Scientifically proven, appropriate, blood donation is beneficial to physical and mental health. 100 cc is enough. Young lady, you are contributing to the peace of the ninja world. Blood donation is good for the body and can promote the body's metabolism. When donating blood, about 200 to 400 milliliters each time, it will not have any effect on the human body. P's. Forget about anemia. One ICU after another. Needle in and needle out, drinking and piercing. Kie really did everything to become stronger. Fortunately, Kie is now considered half a member of the medical system and knows how to eliminate the risk of absorbing blood. Don't ask how to solve it, just ask the power of medical ninjutsu. These targets are all those that Kie has determined to have chakra attributes, including ninjas and ordinary people. As the number of contributors increases, Kie has also discovered some rules for the increase of attribute experience. The attribute experience provided by each person with the same volume of blood is different. Some people provide more, and some people provide less. According to the information he collected before, the donors who can increase more experience are mostly ninjas with stronger talents. The so-called chakra attribute level on the panel, in his opinion, is a digital display of talent. The higher the level, the stronger the talent of the attribute, and the richer the experience value provided by the same volume of blood. Wind attribute +1, 5 100ths. Fire attribute +2, level 2, 2 100ths. Fire attribute +5, level 2, 7 100ths. Yang attribute +1, level 1, 12 100ths. Wind attribute right pointing arrow level 1, 0 100ths. Fire attribute level 2 right pointing arrow level 3, 0 100ths. This is just the harvest of half an hour. Kie looked at the medical staff who had finished their shift and lectured, and suppressed the urge to go back and draw a few more tubes. First, he was afraid of being discovered, and second, he was afraid that these patients would die directly after drawing too much blood. After all, it was a patient in a coma with a serious illness. Time passed day by day. Kie's mood was getting better and better, but the medical staff in the intensive care unit were in dire straits. It was okay that the old director always criticized Kie, because he was really diligent. The most important thing was that the blood test data of most critically ill patients were fluctuating, always stuck at the standard value, which made them very distressed. Some patients even complained to the medical department, saying that they always felt that there were novice nurses practicing on them in their dreams. But there was no substantial evidence. It was finally determined to be a subconscious fantasy. After all, during the process of severe coma, although the body would be in a coma, it would have tactile perception and memory of the medical staff around it, and finally formed this strange dream. Late at night, Kie sat cross-legged on the bed, drawing blood from the blood bag with a syringe, and then skillfully injected himself. After the injection, he skillfully used the palm magic to eliminate the needle hole in one go. Looking at the empty blood bags around him, especially looking at the attribute panel, Kie felt a sense of happiness in his heart. If he were not still a human, he would have to have a digestion process every day, whether drinking blood or injecting. He really wanted to absorb enough at one time. But according to the current progress, it should not take many levels to reach the upper limit of ordinary ninja level 10, as long as there are enough donors. Chakra attributes simplified: fire level 5, 665 1,000ths wind level 2, 21 100ths thunder level 2, 14 100ths water level 1, 74 100ths earth level 1, 63 100ths yang level 1, 26 100ths yin, 18 100ths. Bloodline: none. Fire country: Konoha. It is said that there are only wrong names but no wrong nicknames. Among the blood that Kie obtained, any blood that can provide him with chakra attributes is most likely of fire attribute. It is a pity that after half a month of hard work, he still has not obtained blood. He has inquired from the side that those big families with bloodline limits, such as the Uchiha clan, the Senju clan, and the Hyuga clan, are extremely strict in keeping their bloodlines secret, and basically have their own medical ninjas in the family. Most of the other families are only strong in a single attribute, such as the Yang attribute of the Akamichi clan and the Yin attribute of the Yamanaka clan, but they cannot form a bloodline limit. Most of them complete the inheritance in the form of secret techniques or forbidden techniques. This makes Kie feel a little bit imperfect. But he doesn't know that a storm is coming. At the same time, this is also an opportunity to obtain blood. Please like my videos and subscribe for more videos.